Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Digital Marketing live show number 177, the final episode of 2018. We're well into our fourth year, for actually 3.5 years. We have been doing this show every week, whether it be on a Wednesday or a Friday, but for the past 3 years, it's been on a Friday, 11:30 Eastern Central. And this is show number 177, where we discuss this week's topics that are worth your consideration out of the white noise that's out there all the time about BuzzFeed titles and clickbait and everything else, and then also tools that we have discovered, used, or have talked about as to their functionality. We also have guest hosts that come in, talk to us about their products and their services, along with industry leaders as to their perceptions and insights, and also our techniques, I guess, if it were, our insights as to methodologies as to how to improve your online digital presence for your hotel, whether it be branded or independent. With that soapbox elevator pitch, I am one of your hosts, Lauren Gray, hopefully to be joined soon by some of my fellow co-hosts for an end-of-the-year wrap-up, where we talked about recapping 2018, things that have changed that affected our industry, 2019 prognostications and fortune tellings as to what we think some of the fluctuations, changes, and impacts of some of the things that we expect to happen in 2019. And, of course, always a lot of fun banter and dialogue should we collect that collective mass of great co-hosts. At any time, you're available to go over and reach out to us on the chat to the side. If you're following us on our link, bit.ly, bit.ly/HDM show 177 will bring you to our show. Simply raise your hand to be invited into the show, and we will make you a co-host with us. And if you have a camera, you can turn it on as well. Or simply if you want to join us by audio, you may. Or if you just simply like to sit back into the peanut gallery and toss us comments in the chat box, you can do so as well. We are also being simulcasted on Facebook. For those on Facebook that would like to ask us a question, please enter into the comment section as you're watching the live show, and you can go over and I'll bring it into the conversation on our live show with our co-hosts with that. Now, if Robert Cole is going to be joining us, if not, I would like to thank him in advance. Every week for this past year, he has assumed the mantle of giving us a very well-curated list of content, topics, and discussions that we should bring into the conversation. Now, never once do we actually get to hit every one of those topics, which is why it's so important to know that the show notes exist, that you can go back to and look at the links that he provided at any one time for the topics that we not only talked to, but the ones we didn't talk to. And speaking of the devil himself, is the man of the hour, Mr. Robert Cole of Rockshire. Robert K. Cole. What does the K stand for? Kingsford? Kingsman?
Kendall, of course.
Kendall. Like Kendall Jackson, the wine?
Like, I didn't know. Perhaps, or the Henry C. Kendall Planetarium in Portland, which actually I don't believe exists anymore. That was my.
I called you Space Ace, but I wouldn't put you on a rocket. I don't know.
That was my plan when I was about 8. I think was to be an.
Oh, I think it was everyone's. Yes. I had the full, the big scale model that was like 4 foot tall of the Saturn V rocket.
Oh,
pieced it together myself.
Wow.
Yep. I learned what too much glue meant early on.
That explains so much.
You can watch the progression of my model making skills from the bottom of the rocket to the top, because by the time I got to the top, that was looking good. However, the rockets on the bottom seemed to look like they were leaking a lot of fuel.
Got to get those O-rings glued properly together.
Damn those O-rings. Yes. I was just complimenting you on your curated topics, not just for this particular show, but for the entire year.
I thought they were slightly weak this week, but that's okay. There were actually 2 very good topics because I sent them out for midnight that popped this morning, which it's like, dang it, you can't get ahead of it. The news cycle, so.
Yeah, right. True. When we talk about bleeding edge, we're talking about hot off the press. And for those who don't remember the old hot off the press statement, there used to be a very big warm typewriter, so to speak, that was sitting in its own little room that was persistently typing 24 hours a day from the news wires, everything that was going on. So when it was hot off the press, it's because somebody literally ripped the sheet off to bring it into the newscast to talk about. A telex
machine, or the teletype, which I actually have experience with using in a professional capacity.
Did I when I was in radio. When I was in radio, I had to go in there and rip off news and read it for the newscast. Absolutely.
I had no idea you had been in radio. So you've done this professionally before.
I was the youngest disc jockey. This goes back in the late 70s, early 80s.
Really?
The youngest disc jockey in Florida. Yeah, I worked at first WTMC, then WWKE, then WWKO. Then I was a fill-in for BJ 105, Y100. Wow. I thought I was the King Poobah. Yeah.
Now, did you ever come across Bob Case at that time, who was a big time disc jockey, I believe, in Atlanta. I went to high school with him.
No, the two big stations that were big for Florida at the time was BG 105 out of Orlando and Y100 out of Miami. And the only reason why I was able to work there, and I wasn't able to actually even work under my actual name because, well, nobody actually works under their actual name, was because both the DJs that were they were either on vacation or one was sick, and I had a close enough sound to them that if I kept my cut bites fast, I could cover for them on their shifts without anybody knowing. Especially when they're going through ratings periods.
Hey, so. Wacky 105.
It was the golden age of top 40. It was the golden age of top 40. I kid you not. But anyway, we digress. You have a top story today. The most exciting hotels opening in the U.S., and I have questions about that. So I want to hit that one.
Well, that's why I put it. I mean, it was a Forbes article that was one of those, and I think now these are the most exciting hotel openings according to this fellow. I didn't really do a background on Eric Rosen because sometimes I like to see who are these people, have they worked professionally with the particular organizations and things like that before. But I guess my question would be: are these truly the most exciting hotels? Now they did it by month order, so I did love the name of the one in Detroit, the Shinola Hotel, which as far as I know, what is the rating of this show, Lauren? I don't know. I guess I can say anything I want.
Do we even rate?
I always heard the old saying of "you don't know shit from Shinola," or "you don't know your shit from Shinola." So Shinola must be good, but that's the only framework that I have ever heard that word. So,
well, yes, and it came from because it was actually a famous product.
It was a watch company,
and it was based in Detroit, and yes, and it was one of those comparison tools. I mean, Timex was another one of those things. It keeps on ticking. But that was a phrase. Yes, it was a phrase, and when I saw that, I was like, okay, sure. But they could have maybe found another, well-established named company out of Detroit and named themselves after that. But I did notice one thing about the article, and let me put the article link up into the chat box for this, because what I did notice is, first off, there's no brands. Okay.
Right. That was certainly one that I wanted to call out. Well, here, let me go through the list. The January, the Shinola Hotel in Detroit, which is its watch company Shinola, taking over 2 historic buildings, which are within walking distance of both Comerica Park and Ford Field, which is great. So that's for, for games and concerts, things like that. That's for an independent hotel. That's a great thing. So nice. It seems they have a tie-in. They've got a tie-in with a historic, products from the area. So that sounds like a winner to me. The Virgin Hotel in San Francisco, I've got to think just based on the persona of Richard Branson. That's in February, and the destination of San Francisco itself, it will be very successful.
Yes,
it's kind of that combination. What they said with design touches and things. I mean, Lucy, which is kind of their digital concierge. They've had that at their Chicago property for 3-4 years. I don't know. It's been a little while, which it's been getting enhanced. I believe the folks actually at Lufthansa Systems developed that. But let me see. They're basically talking about that. So, okay, that's more of a personality type thing. Now, Key Largo, Baker's Key,
yes.
Which I'm sure some people will say Baker's K, but that's, I believe, you being the Florida expert, that it should be Baker's Key Hotel, I believe, is C-A-Y-K, or it is Key. So again, that one, now that is a Curio property, so.
Well, and I'll comment on that when we get back to it. I know that property very, very well.
Oh, you do? Okay, yeah, it's reopening the, what was it originally? I can't remember.
Hilton.
It was a Hilton. Oh, okay.
It's been many things. Primarily a Hilton, but it's been many things. Yes.
Yes, a lot of them. Actually, just to digress, as I'm prone to do, I remember I don't know. It wasn't Checky Dev. It was a Cornell professor spoke at a HEDNA conference way back. This was like I'm trying to think. 89 or something, and I remember it vividly. It was in Washington, and he got up on stage and basically said, "Can someone tell me the difference between a Hilton, a Sheraton, and a Radisson?" And there was kind of, cricket, because that's how he opened his talk, right? And he said, no, this isn't a trick question. Can someone legitimately tell it? I have a reason. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not bad. Can someone tell me the difference between these brands? And, somebody raised their hand and said, well, Hilton, you can double dip on points. He goes, no, that's like a tactical market. What is the difference between the products themselves? And nobody could tell them, which is pretty scary. Right then and there.
Especially for those that are working for those brands.
For those brands, yes. And so I said, no, the only thing is, and he mentioned a property, it was like somewhere in upstate New York, Syracuse, something like that. He goes, no, I'm serious. In the last 10 years, this hotel has been all three of those brands. And each time I've watched it, they've actually had consistent management throughout. I believe it's been the same general manager the entire time. And he goes, and nothing dropped off. So when they changed from brand A to brand B, nothing dropped at like 20%, and then they had to build up the market. He goes, it just kept continuing, because he goes, so and then he went off into brand, a talk on brand differentiation and how to be, how you should be different and communicating your differences and things like that. But it was like, he said, all I could tell was they changed the sign on the roof, sort of thing. That was about the extent of it. And then he said all the other stuff that had brands on, branding on it had to get changed out. So because there was quite a bit of change, but to a consumer who's like, hey, how's the bed and how's the service? He goes, it's the same desk clerk, it's the same general manager, it's the same, fundamental restaurant concept. Nothing changed except the flag. And so he goes, his point was, I think when you make a change like that, something to change.
Right.
If there was a difference between the properties, and it was like point well taken. Okay, well, I'll go through the rest of it. Rosewood Miramar Beach in Montecito. Again, boy, I got to think that's going to be a great one. Close to Santa Barbara, Southern California. I think that is a winner. Ever since Rosewood lost Hotel Bel Air, they haven't really had that much of a presence on the West Coast in California. So that I think there will be some people who've been missing the Bel Air being a Rosewood who will go flock to that. Maison de la Luz, which I believe is how you pronounce it, L-U-Z, in New Orleans. There's probably some Cajun pronunciation of that.
I think you did pretty dang good, better than I would have.
Yeah, so that's the Atelier Ace. So that, I guess that's an Ace hotel. I didn't really look deeply into it, but that could be interesting. I mean, that's a nice spot. Andaz Palm Springs, and again, that's kind of the lifestyle brand of Hyatt. So and again, this one's 150 rooms. All these are relatively small. I have been saying most of them under 200 rooms. I'm pretty sure. The New Orleans one was 67 suites. Rosewood one's going to be small. It didn't say the number of rooms, I don't think. 200 rooms at the former Hilton in Key Largo, which is so cruel to say that, the hotel. Sorry about that. They didn't say, 192 rooms in the Virgin property, which is pretty small. 129 at the Shinola. So these are all pretty small boutique properties. So you have the Andaz in Palm Springs. I don't know. They didn't really, it's a trendy location. Grounds will include garden areas and elevated patio terrace with views. Not a lot that makes it, too different there. The W in Aspen, which is the former Sky Hotel, I'm sure that will do very, very well. That was a great little independent property. 88 rooms, great location, underserved luxury hotel market in Aspen. The Conrad in Washington, D.C., 360 rooms. Now, again, that's another Hilton brand. And Star Architects Herzog and Miron. I shouldn't say I'm not familiar with them, but that's probably bad. I should go look them up. The Proper Hotel in Austin, obviously very hot market. It's a millennial focus. Are you familiar with Proper Hotels? They're in LA, Santa Monica, Portland, and now Austin.
No, I'm not.
I'm not. That's probably one we should look at. It's a millennial focus mini chain. So that would be good. Sounds like there's some barbecue, oyster bar, casual takeout, 32-story tower, 244 rooms. Okay, so that to me is a very interesting property with 99 branded residences in a building just a block from the shores of Ladybird Lake. So that sounds like a very interesting property, especially when you start seeing the size. They've got some considerable money wrapped up in that. They've got 244 rooms. And then Four Seasons Philadelphia, which I participated in the original Four Seasons Philadelphia, which was wildly successful, which I'm not even sure what it is now. But they're doing a James Beard award-winning chef, and supposedly it's going to be the tallest in Philadelphia's tallest tower. So that should be a good one. The Guild in San Diego.
I was watching that get initially renoed or demoed, I should say. Because I was seeing the Gaslight District. If anybody's been to I don't appreciate their term swinging Gaslamp Quarter. That just doesn't ring quite why I remember it. But anyway, the Gaslight District in San Diego is such a cool spot. Oh my God, it's so much fun to be down there. The issues, I think, somebody should build a parking garage because, good God Almighty, you can't get anywhere close to that place if you're planning on driving there. You just, if anything, Uber in or Lyft in or freaking take a public transport in. It's really neat. The restaurant there, the diversity of restaurants, the diversity of people, really cool place. This hotel, I think, is going to be freaking rocking because if it's sitting in the middle of that, they're going to be having a happy place.
Yeah, no, and they're keeping it's an Army, Navy, YMCA building. The room categories take up names of guilds like Society, Apprentice, Journeyman. They're using the same. They're keeping the original YMCA basketball court, things like that. So that's great. They didn't just tear it down and put up something new, which you might not be able to do in the Gaslamp.
Well, they said they're going to make the Grace Ballroom, so maybe it's a
into a ballroom, which is great.
They'll probably flip it around very well. Yeah, but I mean, just the fact that, because if I remember the Corma, just the outside though, I was never inside because, like I said, they were going demo. Just the very neat, ornate detail to the buildings that all exist in that area, the Gaslight area down there, are really nice. So
well, and I recall I stayed in one. Boy, it was probably in the 90s, probably mid 90s, and I checked in late that night. Came in and the hotel only had 2 rooms. I can't remember which property it was. It was an independent, and they asked me if I wanted the room to be haunted or not. I was kind of like, that's a very interesting. I've never been posed that question before in terms of room selection, and so they.
Of course, the world you go to, that may mean something entirely different.
I asked for kind of a description of the haunting, and not a big, ghost type guy, kind of like, no, not, I don't necessarily buy into too much of that. But the way they described it, I thought, you know what, I'll take the non-haunted one. I need a good night's sleep. I have meetings in the morning. I think I'll wake up refreshed instead of
terrified and questioning my life existence. And the last on the list.
Oh, the Halapuna Waikiki by Halakalani. So, which is very interesting because it's the former Waikiki Park. And the Waikiki Park was always way down almost by the marina next to the Prince. And I think it was it the Ilokai before that? I can't remember the name of it. But it's been around. It's 288 rooms. And it's interesting. So at least I think that's where this one is. Oh, wait, Waikiki Park. You know, that may be a different one. That one may be down close to the.
It's around the corner. It's not.
Is that down by the zoo? Over by the zoo down there? Oh, okay. That's right. No, sorry. I was thinking of a different one. That's right. But 288 rooms. But Halakalani always only had the one property, which was a very good 5-star property, great dining, world's worst beach in the center of great pool area. But horrible beach right in the core of Waikiki. And they never did additional properties, so now they've done another one, which is
if the beach was like this wide and everybody was walking through, so there was never a chance to really go sit out far. You either sat in the bar area looking over it, or you walked to somebody else's beach. But a couple of things with this one, and it's neat that they're doing this because Waikiki, as you know, you've been there, I've been there. For anybody who's been able to chance to be there, and it's amazing to go down there. It's so busy all the time that they just keep everything well maintained. There's not a lot of like having to redo because it's so expensive to redo stuff. Obviously, going through the adages of, hey, you're on an island. So why go through the expense of having to reinvent yourself? We're so used to here at the mainland to go over and have the constant returning of FF&E renewals and brand standard changes and everything like this. Well, down there, it's not near as much. You see things that have been there. You can go back 10 years later, and you're going to see the same. I mean, well-made chairs, the same well-made tables, the same well-made walls. They keep it very well maintained because they want to get as much life out of it as possible because they have already the business, so they don't have to keep reinventing themselves to drive business.
Well, and with the sea era and everything like that, you can take the approach where you just change the stuff out and stuff like that because the salt isn't necessarily generous to furniture and things like that.
Right, right.
Yeah. And sand is not so good for flooring and carpets and things like that. Pretty abrasive stuff.
Going through this list, I mean, obviously these are all affluent location, affluent cost hotels. These are not your standard fare for normal travelers, or I should say, economical travelers to this process. I'll take some examples to some things where lipstick is still lipstick. The Key Largo property, the one that's being put down in Baker's Cay. The hotel, if you were to be asked, would you want an acre of beach or 10 acres of swampland? You'd say an acre of beach. Well, this is the 10 acres of swampland. This one is not on what.
Now, do they have beach? Do they have beach access nearby?
They have. They're facing the Florida Gulf. So they're the Florida Bay side. So it's a very flat water. It's very shallow water. It's not facing the ocean aspect of it. And there's no real beaches. Most people go down the Keys thinking there's beaches. There's literally no beaches down there. I mean, the only one that's truly a beach is in Key West, and that was brought over from the Bahamas.
Right.
It's all coral down there. Now, it's not to say there's not sand on the coral. There's some really Bahia Beach and so forth. There's really cool little niche beaches to this, and there is sand on their beach to it. But they're in the middle of tropical lush land. So for them, the hotel you drive back off of US 1 into very beautiful garden areas and so forth. Over the years, every person that's regenerated this hotel has added some intrinsic exterior value to this place, but it's one of the biggest footprint hotels in Key Largo. That always made it a success. It's one of the largest conference spaces in Key Largo, which always made it a success for those types of things. But its actual value proposition is the footprint that it sits on allows for the garden walks, the kids areas and so forth, where other hotels and motels and so forth are so small footprinted, they don't have the luxury of square footage space to even offer those things. So that's been the real value proposition of this building. It's nice that they're redoing it. The picture that they provided in this article for those who look at it, it looks the same but newer, which means that they really didn't do much structural change because down there they work on a credit system. To change any square footage, you have to assign credits, and they don't give credits. So you have to tear down buildings to get credits. So they didn't do real expansions. They probably did some renovations. They probably did some improvements and probably a lot of FF&E. But the idea of this, going back to prognostications of 2019, I'm noticing, and this is just maybe me, conspiracy theorist, that these types of hotels are being built smaller because there is a rift growing. Well, there's been a huge rift growing between those that have money, a lot of money to enjoy places like this, and then those who don't have the money to enjoy a place like this. And so you don't build grand dame hotels anymore that thousands of rich people can come to.
Right.
You build small, boutique-ish, well-positioned hotels that affluent people can go to. And then you build large box hotels that the general affordable masses can go to. Because it seems to be this building cycle. Small, boutique, expensive, large, box location.
Right. So, the days of the Waldorf, like in New York, the Waldorf Astoria, the Plaza Hotel, all these great grand hotels are now much, much smaller. I think the Plaza was originally, I think it was close to 600, 800 rooms, something like that. And they weren't necessarily huge rooms because it was built back in the in the 20s sort of thing. But that's now down to like 200 rooms and a bunch of residences. Same thing Waldorf Astoria is going through its renovation where, it's being redeveloped mostly into residences. And again, by selling those, they can raise the capital to go do the renovation, and financially it works out, right? So it's
well, you figure back then, it used to be that when the Waldorf Astoria was built and so forth, the general traveling populace, if you were even capable of traveling, if you weren't a traveling salesman, if you were traveling whatever, it was boarding houses. that was where you stayed. Those who stayed at places like the Waldorf, it was a walled palace because everything was inside that hotel. There was nothing outside the hotel you needed to see. Everything outside the hotel was everybody else. You know, if you were able to be in that hotel, you went to the ballroom, you went to the dining, you went to the salon. Everything was
multiple dining outlets, right? You had the cafe, which at the Waldorf was where they invented the Waldorf salad, right? So, but they had. But then you had the fine dining room. You had all sorts. You had the lobby bar. You had another like a cigar bar and things like that. And very, very maybe an entertainment room or a showroom or something like that, which was the hallmark of all the Fairmonts.
Miami Beach, the Cabana down there, the Copacabana. And I mean, when you went to these places, you were there, and that way it kept out everybody else. Because if you walked up thinking you just walk into the lobbies to what the place was like, no. If you're not staying at that hotel, you don't walk on the property of that hotel. You know, those were those days. So now that doesn't exist. There is a different blending of people that travel. There's a lot more reasons for people to travel, and there's different costs to travel. But these places, for those who want to be different than others, still need to exist. And I'm not saying all these hotels are being snooty and stuck up, but there's certainly not places I'm going to go to on a regular basis. I can't drop $500, $600, $800 a night every night. I mean, I can't do it one night. I'm going to go to some place that's probably much more reasonable and in a much better location. You know. By the way, where are you staying for the digital conference?
Right now, well, okay, I will reveal, and I apologize, hotel revenue managers, hotel marketing directors. This is a horrible, horrible thing, but it's what I do, right?
It's what Robert does.
Right. Because and I've done it successfully the past several years. What I'll do is I'll go out 6 months in advance, somewhere way out, and find a 3 to 4 star, a 3-star hotel at the best possible pricing, right? And in this case, it's my wife and daughter also come with me generally, or actually my wife comes to me with this conference. My daughter's coming this year, right? Because she's going to be studying overseas, so she's going to not be in school right then. She's available. So I grabbed a room, I believe, at the Hilton Garden Inn in Midtown, which is completely fine. I've stayed there before. I think I was there during a snow. I was snowed out actually from a conference that was it was a digital marketing conference. It was when it was held in January. It snowed, and nobody could leave, and I wound up desperately getting a room at this property, and it was fine. There's nothing wrong with this hotel, but I'm staying for 4 nights for, I think, including tax, $540 US. Right?
Dang.
That is a dirt cheap, much too inexpensive rate. The revenue manager, the consumer side of me says, bless your soul. the owner side of me goes, what the hell were you thinking? Sort of thing. But I grabbed that. And so now, not right now, because most of the revenue managers are not working. They have the week off. So pricing in the hotel industry hasn't really done anything. The stuff that was probably set at around Thanksgiving or maybe in the first week of December or something when they were paying, did something, and then nothing's really going on. But boy, things are going to start happening next week, right? Right after the second or third, there is just going to be a complete rechurning of pricing in these cities, and I'm going to go start looking around there because you can stay. I wound up getting, I think, the Premier, which is kind of the annex of the Millennium. It's run by Millennium Hotels, but it's nice, a little bit upscale property right next door to the Hudson Theater. On the other side of the Hudson Theater. I think I got it for like $150 a night. Very nice 4-star hotel, breakfast included, that sort of thing, drinks in the evening, and it was great. I think we stayed at the Sanctuary once, stayed at Citizen M last year, which was great, again, for about $150 a night. I looked at the pricing for Citizen M for the 4 nights, would be well over $1,500 and priced above a lot of the other 4-star hotels. So basically what I'm now doing, I bottom fed for a 3.5-star property, got a great price that you can't really beat. It's cancelable, fully refundable because I bought it on booking.com, right? No penalties whatsoever. And now I'll just go look for a 4-star property or better, 4 or 5-star property, and then see what I can find. And I may wind up spending 50% more. I don't know. I don't think I'll spend double, maybe if there's a great 5-star hotel, but I'm sure in looking at that value equation of what do I get for the dollars spent, I'm going to find something really nice for 4 nights in that kind of probably $600 to $750, $600 to $800 range. I'm guessing I'll find something fantastic. And if not, I'm completely happy with the Garden Inn, right? So there it is. That's the, and I think years ago, that sort of approach to getting hotel rooms was kind of a rarity. I think that's becoming more of the case with a well-informed consumer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, and I think that's why Booking has done so well. That whole, you don't even have to give, well, you can have a credit card number, but they don't charge your credit card number in advance when you have to get it refunded or anything. You have minimal skin in the game, right? It's just I'm holding a reservation. That's all. I've locked in a price. And that's the total commitment. So
okay, let's look backwards before we look forward. You had an article from Search Engine Land, SEO Year in Review 2018 for Google Updates and Focus on Mobile. I'd like to look at that one, and then I'd like to look at the one after that one, which is the one that you did from Hotel News Now, which was Hotel Sales Marketing Trends to Watch for 2019. Now, the reason why I brought in the conference thing was we have an excellent keynote speaker that's going to be at HSMAI's Digital Marketing Strategy Conference from Google. Yeah. And then we're going to have David Atkins, who has been under the radar for a long time, ever since he joined Visit Florida back a couple years ago. He has gone quiet and dark, and now he's coming back into the public presence, and he's going to talk about AI and the promise of what AI is and the reality of it, and we're ready for that. And I'd like to
David probably did what I did when I went to Mark Travel, right? Was he probably had them as a client or something, wound up becoming embedded as an employee or whatever, or at least probably I'm guessing that was probably the sole group he was working with, and now that contract's over after 2 or 3 years or whatever the case may be, and now he's back surfacing to go back to what he was doing.
Very talented man. Now, this is not a negative anyway whatsoever. It's great to have him back into the conversations again. Because
or he was in prison and he's got some people there who were just.
Or he had some debts paid to society and he's now back out. Yeah. Well, you know what it is? When he gets on stage, we'll look for that little bump on his ankle, see if there's something there.
Exactly.
David, if you're listening, you can give a shit later. But he's going to be talking about AI and the promise of it.
David will be completely happy because as probably I believe what the deal was. Now again, Ed and Stuart and Tim and Valen and Holly worked on this kind of independently from you and me. I mean, we're just promoting it, but everyone who watched this this show last year, I believe, should have gotten a Tesla Model 3 delivered to their home. Yes, and you did that nice wrappering with the hotel digital marketing, the unremovable wrapping, which is interesting. I wasn't aware that was a permanent. Was that a paint job or is that a?
No, that's where you dip the whole car in that little water thing and it wraps around and comes right back out or something. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, battery or something. But
and so if you're watching and you haven't gotten your car, please contact Stuart, Ed, Tim, Holly directly because they'll make sure you get
Edward St. Ange at Flip2, and we can give you his personal cell phone if you want. Stuart Butler.
Yes. If you have their cell phone numbers, keep calling, please. They're very busy, but keep calling.
Operators are busy, but stand by.
Don't give up your line in the queue. Yes,
that's right. First come, first serve on that. Holly has basically, ever since she's gotten world famous with her influencer training, I mean, we're just chopped liver now. It's just one of those.
The people like Holly, once they hit the big time, they forget about the little people who were there supporting them back.
Well, she remembers only because she's still standing on her head. That's all it is. That's what it's boiled down to. Yeah. It's just this sad thing.
That's right. Exactly. So anyway, we digress. Search Engine Land. We're talking about the Google
review of 2018. There's a nugget in there that I want to point out as we go through this process to it. But if we want to start, the first title of it was Google Search Ranking and Algorithm Updates. There was, of course, the speed update, and there was a medic update, and this is not the kernel I want to bring up to it, but was the medic update. They said somewhere around August, and I remember when this hit because the half part of August just seemed to just get all fudgy all of a sudden when it came to stats. Okay, Google said they're not going to keep announcing their algorithm updates because it's kind of funny because they created this world that we live in for SEO in relationship to Google. We're all sitting at the bottom of the volcano waiting for somebody to come down with a couple extra tablets to tell us.
Matt Cutts. You waited for Matt Cutts to come down
and
present the tablets and say, here's the
Trading Places when they announced the orange juice thing. That's kind of how we all feel every time that Google comes up with some sort of what happened, and it's like, well, we're coming out with the announcement of what we did. It's like but basically they did a big change as to how they quantify their algorithm usage, and that changed a lot of how sites were done, obviously, in the sense of how well they were ranked for what they were presented for in the sense of their authenticity or authorship to it. And that was what they called their Medic update.
And they said there was nothing you can do about it, right? You can't game it. It's there. And we made some broad core changes to the algorithm, I believe were the exact words. Yeah.
And these are the things now we're in the realm of AI where they're using AI, larger percentages that we've lost track. They don't tell us anymore how much percentage of the actual search algorithm is now under the control of AI. It was last mentioned at around 26%, and that was at the beginning of the year. So noticing all these changes going through in the algorithm updates, we can only assume that the AI's variations and usabilities has improved or been used in different capacities and so forth. So what they're saying now is stop trying to figure us out. We're doing what we think we need to do to be better at what we're providing for user experience. You can't second guess us anymore. You can't put white letters on a white background anymore. You can't keyword fatten your pages. You can't even show up for certain pages now, which is the one I wanted to point to, where they're talking about certain words are off the board. There's no results. What's called the 0 results in their UI engagement. Okay, there are certain things that do not show multiple variation answers. Now, remember, as a search engine, when we go on computers, we ask a question, and the Google will come back with what they think is your best in descending order as to what's next best for them. As to what
options.
They think
Here are your best options. Yes.
Now, we've had this on the conversation on the live show before where Google wants to be the ultimate assistant. They want to be able to give you a single answer to a single question, much like your friends. I don't ask Robert, so what do you think of this? And he goes, oh, it's blue. But it could also be blue with a shade of white. It could be blue with a shade of blue. It could be blue with a shade of white. You don't answer that way. It's like, it's blue. So with this, the 0 option stuff is first starting with... I
normally answer, what does Ed think?
Actually, I think the response you usually have is, what are you effing asking me for? You're usually, why are you bugging me? But with this one, what's happening is more and more questions. If you look, and just do this as a test at home if you want to, not right now while you're listening to us on the show, but do speed test. All of a sudden, you have a speed test from Google. What time is it? What's the temperature outside? Who won what X game? There's no multiple results. There's single answers. Also, and most people may not realize this, Google has taken off the table certain travel terms that are no longer addressable to a single answer or to multiple answers. Best downtown hotel of Dallas downtown hotel, best Dallas hotel. Those single answer results in some markets, not all markets yet, but in some of the more primary markets, are no longer assigned to outside entity. What they do is Google will translate that to them. Basically, they've taken it and it's now their term. And they answer the term as to what they want to say.
And they have a broad assortment of hotels that they can evaluate on a wide variety of criteria based on reviews, on price value, on whatever they may deem appropriate, which again, no one really understands.
Right. And it's also about what they know about you. When you say best hotel, they're going to take whatever they know about you as well and add that into their equation as to what they mean. That's the AI portion. Okay, it's not a flat single algorithm used for everybody. It's a methodology that's used for everybody.
And just imagine. I mean, I described in pretty deep detail my process for getting a hotel in New York for this one event in January. Now, this conference moves between January and February. I would say this, from an AI perspective, would be relatively difficult challenge for Google to figure out, but you start looking at these signals and you go, wait a second, it's a 4-day length of stay. If they know, from things of, hey, I've posted this, I've gotten things, or, again, if they're looking through my Gmail, they go, oh, you got the conference confirmation. that's great, sort of thing, right? You got all that sort of stuff together. It goes, oh yeah, you're going to the conference. It's a month early this year, and it knows 6 months previously going, oh, it's time to go, lock down your 3-star hotel to get a good rate. And then it knows, oh, after January 1st, when the rates, are all going to churn and get updated, now let's go looking for 4 and 5-star deals. You go, well, that's pretty complicated, but could a truly informed AI assistant do that? I think so, right? And it would probably be like, that's great. I'm having, somebody's working in my interest to get something, something that's going to give me the greatest benefit, which is exactly what I want, right? Which is fantastic. It's like having a great administrative assistant back in the day, which people don't even remember having those. But again, that's what they would do. They go, yeah, I got you a hotel. You didn't know necessarily anything about it. The assistant knew what you liked. They handled it because, again, they knew where your meetings were. They knew when your flights were. They figured out this is going to be the best bet. And you didn't, if they were good, you didn't really have to question it, and they weren't wrong almost ever.
Other things, there wasn't an article that you put up in here, but there's one from Cody that was very interesting. And what they're doing is they're beginning to see Google test preemptive rates in the future, much like they're doing for flights, but for hotels now. Yep. Cody had this in their blog article. I'm going to put this link that we're talking about right now. I forgot to do that in our chat.
Oh, okay.
But Cody went over was pointing out that, when you go into Google Local and you're looking at a business on Google Maps, and there's this time cycle, okay,
right,
as to busy, not busy, and where you are in that time cycle, saying it's a little busier than normal or less than busy or whatever. They're now doing that, according to Cody, in a test module as to how that displays for hotels. And right now, the example that Cody showed, and I'll put this in the show notes for people to go to as an incentive to go do the replay, where they're putting it on the top bar longer with a spread of 14 to 21 days. Right. And they're showing rates as they are in the scope of so you can look and say, okay, wow, look, that day's cheaper than that day. And you can see it's a Monday versus a Thursday or whatever like that. But then they're showing this in the timeline. And the scary part of it is...
so you can shift your days of the week. If you're saying, I want a 4-day trip, hey, you know what? If I come in on the Wednesday through Sunday, or whatever the case may be, or Tuesday and depart Sunday, that's better than doing the Thursday, through Monday, or whatever the case may be, right? So... it's very, very.
They're going to get more of a transparency aspect to this, because if they aren't configured correctly, they're going to show poorly. If they're trying to hold rate to the last minute because they're making up some bogus forecast that based on ownership's demand of revenue, and they hold rate integrity, and then before they dump it 48 hours out, they're going to purposely lose early booking opportunities because people just say, "Wow, that's that's not what I want to compare it to. I don't want to see that rate."
Oh, yeah. Well, and when you look at Google's new Trips app, right, and their whole booking on the phone, and I don't know if this is testing or not. I think it's now in kind of out in the wild for everyone to use, but they now have a flights tab, a hotels tab, and a combinations tab. So logically, you start putting the flight timing together with the hotel timing, which you would think generally should go together. I mean, if flights are very cheap to go into a destination, come out, but not always, right? There's some variation. You can wind up getting some very interesting combinations where you start looking at, oh, well, let's look at this particular flight. I don't have to fly basic economy because they will filter that out of flights, right? You can say, I want such and such, such and such total. I'm checking a bag. It's going to be this much, right? So you can understand your pricing there. And, I can get a great hotel over, because again, if they know the arrival departure pattern for the flights, they got a pretty good idea when you need that hotel. So all of a sudden you can start putting that stuff together and going, here's an answer for you, or here's what we think is the best bet. And, would you like to go dig out stuff on your own? Go for it, right? And again, as you do that, and maybe you do find better stuff for things you prefer, all that's doing is providing more signals to Google about, oh, well, how did you search to look for more, different things? Did you change your destination? Did you expand the search radius to get a lower cost hotel? You wanted to stay, somewhere outside the city, or who knows what you're looking for, right? But again, they're going to take all those signals, figure out maybe what you booked, because again, for folks who use Gmail and things like that, and your emails are getting scanned and your little Google Trips thing is popping up your reservations, it may kind of lose you to know, hey, I went to the Marriott site and dug around a little bit, but oh, hey, what do you know? We just saw what you booked, and they can start putting, again, anonymously, as we talked about the tracking the people's destinations, in the mapping anonymously, but you are mapped to an ID, and they can connect all those dots and figure out this is what Lauren likes, and again, and that's true personalization, right? Looking at the universe of selections, true personalization is looking at the universe of travelers and saying, here's what people liked who had interests and kind of fits like you. Right? This is what we really think based on the behaviors of others is going to work for you, right? And they present it and you go, and maybe you're a little bit different. Maybe they guessed on the wrong grouping or whatever, or, weighted signals too heavily, certain signals too heavily in your case, but they're learning, right?
As it goes through the process, it doesn't take a lot of math. You remember there was a golden age of app development where everyone was developing an app with a certain twist or change to it and so forth. And there's a lot of fun ones where you could say, you could plan your trip and pull things over off to the side of things you're interested in to create a kind of an interest list. And then eventually you can see if you want to piece together. Those technologies went away. They've gotten refined and improved. They were absorbed and bought by larger and larger entities. But you figure it's like, okay, if this learning process is that Lauren doesn't want to spend more than $150 on this trip per night, and he doesn't mind taking public transit because they can see how I, from my searches on maps, from my usage on my GPS tracking and so forth, how I travel, whether it's Uber versus transit.
He's walking in from LaGuardia. Unbelievable. He's on the 59th Street Bridge. Who knew they had sidewalks up there? Oh, they don't have sidewalks up there.
With a roller bag. Anyway, so through that whole process is like eventually it's going to be where it's like it's going to be suggestive. We've talked about this on the show. Right now, we're only asking one question and getting multiple responses back. Eventually, and I think the true key to this, and maybe Dave will bring it up in his conversation on his closing keynote presentation at the digital conference in AI, is when it begins to ask questions back to you. We talked about this on the show before. It's like when you get that interactiveness of clarification, where it's like, hey, I needed to plan a trip for New York. Well, I noticed that you're traveling for the conference, Dave, on January 21st through the 24th. Do you want to stay close to the properties, to the conference?
I would say it may even skip that step of asking the questions, right? If it knows, I would say it might ask if it really had a missing signal where it really didn't know. But again, if it's picked up enough, and again, what's it based on? If you've traveled to that same, I don't know how many of those have you been to in a row? I mean, at Google, you probably were going to that conference before Google had the ability to pick up signals on this, right?
Yeah.
So, But if they had that data
15 years
for 10 or 15 years, they're going to get a pretty good idea of, we're going to book whatever, the Row Hotel so many years. And I wound up actually staying at the Row. And I didn't go and do a bunch of go out to the 4 and 5 star because actually my wife wasn't with me. They had an incredibly low rate of like $79. This was several years ago, right? It was an abnormally low rate when Highgate was really pushing the limit of bottoming out in the market to fill the place, and it was in a low week for the city. But I just wanted to experience the property and see it, and it was like, this is great. I'd heard of it, but it was a. So yeah, it's interesting to. So are you hearing something else talking?
No.
I hear Crest talking
coming back
for some reason.
Are those voices coming back to your head, Robert? Are those little voices?
I don't know if it may have been something else that I had opened, or you know what? I may have had something like in Facebook or something open that popped up. So okay, yes, the voices.
Now? It says it must have been something open on another tab.
But normally the voices, but Lauren, normally the voices in my head are like, Robert, horrible. And this wasn't. It was my voice and your voice, so it was very disoriented.
All right. So other than that, just wrap up on the 2018 stuff for Google and the article that we shared.
Yeah. Well, they went to mobile first indexing, right? They're looking at that, and they're saying over 50% of their search results are now, indexed through mobile first. So please, the year of mobile, remember it was 2007 and 2008 and 2009 and 2000, all the way up to about 2015-ish.
And maybe we can help the Adrian Award attendees just so that they can get past an unfortunate hurdle that they have to go by. As most people within the HSMAI organization know, that they're under the renovation of a new website, which is supposed to launch sometime in 2019. Something well overdue and well necessary. In the process, they're still dealing with old current website stuff, and one of them is the Adrian Awards.
Which is, let's just describe as a suboptimal user experience.
It's a piece of crap. So there's the AdrianAwards.com, which is
with all due respect to pieces of crap.
No, this is not even a good piece of crap. This is a piece of crap.
That's right.
But this one is a site that you're supposed to go to be able to sign up to go to the Adrian Awards, which is the night predicating the digital conference, which is honestly, and I mean this sincerely, it's a gala, and it's a lot of fun watching people get awards, but the real amazing fun part of it is the networking at the beginning. It's kind of like the Focusrite for HSMAI, for the industry in a general sense, where Focusrite, if you want to network with the real high-level people, Focusrite's the place to go to, because God knows it's expensive to get there, but it's so worth it if you want to be in front of these top-level guys. When it comes to talking to people that are really involved in the industry and are really in the middle of everything that goes on in a globalization kind of way. The networking cocktail hours before the Adrian Awards themselves are a golden period. Now, this is not to discuss business. Nobody's going to want to talk to you about buying your stuff. But if you want to create connections.
Oh, no, Lauren, you go in, and just like any other relationship, the first time you meet someone, don't you try to sell someone something?
Yes, room and rate. Hi, I'm such and such. Rated such and such. Yes. Yeah. Well, that's what most people do with their social platforms. That's another story. But
exactly. If you're doing that on your social platforms, please don't come to the Adrian Awards.
Or
give everyone a favor.
Because you're going to want to do some more business. All right. So anyway, so you go over, you get to talk about the people. It's really a lot of fun. But you have to go to this website, AdrianAwards.com. It is miserable to try to book through, because as soon as you go through it and you can even find the button to bring you to book, it immediately says, hey, you're not a member, you got to log in first, and it wipes the screen away, and you got to go, well, I'm not a member, so what am I going to do now? Anyway, the idea is that mobile-friendly and secured sites are two minimum criteria now. The third is speed, okay? Speed you can kind of get away with, because that's really an effective guest experience. So Google's not going to rank you very high if you're slow, and guests aren't going to really engage with you much if it takes too long. So that's a given. But if you don't have an SSL, a secured certificate on your website, just make it the HTTPS that you see in the address line, Google won't even index you. If you're not mobile friendly, and in fact that you have a mobile aspect, Google's not going to, they're just, mobile is first. Your website, we build websites now that are, we use a little screen. I mean, literally, we have this huge screen we're building the website on, but it's being built for the display version of a mobile experience. And then from there, we learn how we escalate the navigation and the additional media when the screen gets larger for a desktop. It's the minor aspect to the development, not the major aspect anymore. And so if you're not mobile first in what you have for your site, if it's not responsive like AdrianAwards.com, and it's not mobile like AdrianAwards.com, and it's not secured like AdrianAwards.com, it's not even going to show up. So do yourself a favor if you're an HSMAI member, go to hsmai.org, go find the Adrian Awards page, and just log in and buy your ticket there. Don't even bother the process of going through AdrianAwards.com, because it ain't going to help you. It's not going to do anything more than, because it's only going to drive you to the same place we just told you to go to. So we'll put the link for the registration for Adrian's, and we'll put the link for the Digital Marketing Conference in the show notes directly, so you can go. But you're going to have the same issue. As soon as you go there, if you're not logged in as a member already when you do, it's going to stop you, say, you're not a member, you got to log in. If you're not a member, just go and say, going as a guest. Okay? Now, there's no more early bird special, but as a secret, I am asking them if we can go over and regenerate the early bird code and redistribute that on a limited target audience.
An insider price, a friends and family insider price, perhaps?
To run until the end of the year, just so you can save yourself the extra coin. Now, we know that most hotels are affording the person to attend, so it's not exactly coming out of your wallet, but you still have to ask, and then if it's a smaller price, it's easier to ask for it. So,
well, what's the differential in the price?
It's $100. I think it's $100.
Okay. So does it cross over a major number though? Does it go from $950 to $1,150 where there might be a budget constraint or something like that? Or
no, again, I think it's like a 5 to 4. I think it's a 7 to a 6 or something like that. It's somewhere in that range. Now that said, I can't begin to tell, nor can Robert, because he's also on the council that built the agenda for this year. But the agenda is freaking kick ass, and the digital marketing conference. And I mean this sincerely, not as a pitch to the process. It is the best peer networking digital marketing conference there is in the industry, period. There are others that are out there that do digital marketing as an aspect of it. There's components to it. But if you want to talk to real people that are in the middle of digital marketing for hospitality, or marketing, as we want to better call it, for hospitality, there is no better peer engagement, networking capability, regardless of the great content on the conference, than there is at this conference. The people that you will meet at this conference are lifetime. You will forever be engaged with them because there will be a resource for you as the years go by. Literally firsthand experience, I'm saying that because people that I still talk, Robert, all of our other co-hosts, all of us in one way or another met or came through the process of meeting each other through this digital marketing conference. So it is a amazing networking, get to up to speed, finding people that you can rely upon to call and say, hey, is it blue today or is it red? And, if you ask Robert, he'll tell you about Four Seasons and Cornell and,
right. I'll be able to tell you about all sorts of things prior to 1990.
Yes. And when he owned a buggy whip company.
It used to be like. It is kind of funny though, where I'll have a conversation where somebody will talk to me about this really amazing new earth-shattering idea, right? And it's like, yeah, I've seen that, done that. I go, no, nobody's ever done that digitally. It's like, yeah, but it's been done very successfully, or you got to watch out for X, Y, and Z because again, this may be my mantra for 2019 is digital is a tool. It's not the be all and end all itself. It's a method to accomplish, some sort of goal to create some sort of outcome. That's what it is. So what's your objective? What's your process to do that? Hey, can you use this tool to enhance that process, to make it more seamless, to get better data out of it, to track it better, whatever you may use that tool for, to get it on a certain device, to get it to some. That's fantastic to reach and engage people, but it still comes down to what's your messaging, what are you trying to accomplish, and why are you doing? How is this fulfilling your objective as a business, right? And that's still, I think, a challenge. Again, going into this, looking through all the Google, the Google stuff that was in that Search Engine Land article, I think, the reason I threw it into the list of topics was people should just be, even if you aren't necessarily responsible for SEO, you should be looking at all of these things because this is what Google is doing to focus on structured data, right? Enabling speakable markup to voice queries is very, very important because Google's predicting, I don't have the stat here. It's something like more than 50% of the queries are going to be by voice. I believe it's like by 2020 or something as a stat. It's very, very high. So, hey, might as well use 2019 to get ready for that. It's only 2020 is, going just a little bit more than a year from now. So, but, it goes through the UI changes, the mobile search, all the other different, aspects of, of local, and it's just an outrageously valuable article on what changes Google's made, and if Google's changing something, you should, yes, it may be an experiment and they may kill it, which is certainly one of the challenges with Google. In some cases, maybe 10 or 15% of this you're going to go chase down and do a bunch of stuff, and then it's going to wind up getting deprecated at some point, a year, 5 years from now. But you know what? If they think it's important, they're testing it, it's out. Do it.
And keep in mind, too, there's a lot of things that Google's doing that we are no longer able to influence a reaction to. As they pointed out earlier, and what we said earlier about this article, they're saying, hey, these algorithm changes, there's nothing you can do that's different other than doing what it is to represent your product.
Right.
Because
have great content.
Right.
Right.
And
some of the stuff like the schema stuff, though, you can still do that, right? There's still ways to,
They're not saying just be, be willy-nilly about this. There's still effective ways to improve how you represent. It's like somebody, which we don't represent well, that can speak well for themselves.
Yeah, that's right.
There's a difference between, being eloquent about how you say it and being brutish and not being able to explain yourself well. Same too when it comes to SEO. There's, like you pointed out, schema, and there's a great refinement to hospitality schema that's come out that if you do that, you're going to improve your relationship with Google, and it's going to improve what they can show you for. That's a given. Those things still exist, but there are some things out there that are happening that literally we cannot influence. And I'll bring a very specific point to this. There was a new indexing that went into, if on your mobile Google Local and your Google Maps, if you were to look for, just if you say New York hotel, and it pulls up hotels, and you open up a hotel and you scroll down, there's a location index now. Now, the location index is a score 0 to 5 that will talk about what with the location of your hotel in relationship to things around it. Now, first, when this came out, it was not announced. It just started rolling out. Okay, we're like, oh my gosh, so I got to make sure I put a lot of stuff in about what's around me. Nope. Google already knows what's around you from their mapping programs. They know what's there. Then we found out very quickly thereafter that each of those scores is different depending upon the user because they tailor the location information to the user's engagement. So it's not whether Robert and I seeing the same score, like I see a 4.8 with my hotel and the items around it, Robert may see a 3.2 because what I like about being around a hotel isn't what Robert likes. And so the score index is actually different. And there's no way to influence that because Google already knows what's around you. They're assigning the indexing according to the user experience. That's what we mean by not being able to use or influence what these things are changing to because we're a creature of our own content at this point. What we are is what we are. We can't really modify how we say it about ourselves. We can't talk about the double wide porte cochere and think we're going to get larger trucks to drive through because it's still only 23 foot tall. Anyways, all right. That was 2018 on it.
But again, those are they're incredibly important considerations because you can't just go and game this stuff the way you could. Nope. Just like, here's a little trick and here's the gap that I think.
No more silver bullets. There's no more silver bullets. We do this one thing, we're back on top.
Well, and the funny thing is if you watch the Senate hearings with Sundar, the CEO of Google, when they were beating, these clueless senators were beating him up about how search works, which was just crazy. But he was trying to explain, and he kept his cool, which I guess is very important in front of the Senate. But just saying there are 200 signals. I mean, Google, if you give them some query and say, Lauren Gray is looking for the best hotel deal in New York City, or something like that. Nobody at Google can tell you what that answer is going to be, right? It's the algorithm. It's this accumulation of your personal information, your behaviors, your location, all sorts of factors, the hotel, the whole universe of all the options they come up with. And again, the part with voice is it's going to be an answer, right?
What's that game that they play in Eastern countries, APAC, where you drop the marble on the top and it bounces through all the pins to get down to the bottom? It's a very famous game. I can't remember the name of the game. I literally, when I was a child,
a lot of science centers and looks at the normal distribution of the ball bouncing around, right?
Yeah, but there's a name to it, and please, if anybody on the show is listening to it, let me know what it is. I'll look it up after the show if I don't have anybody answer me back. Mm-hmm. But I was actually pointed to that from one of the engineers when we were out having coffee because those little booths are everywhere where you can go play, and they ding, 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 and the ball bounces through, and you get more balls if it lands in a certain spot or something like that. It says that's what Google's doing is this you start at the top, but based upon a whole mess of factors that we don't control anymore, it finds its way down to a single, to a conclusion. It's no longer a straight line. There never really was a straight line, but in the figurative sense, people keep using this funnel analogy, which is long past its prime of usabilities because it's not a big swirling pile at the top that comes to a very small neck at the bottom. That's only the numerics of it. That's saying from a gross number of entities to a smaller number of entities. But the process is not just a single path down. If you were to actually put it into a 3D function, it is literally a global, it's bouncing in a circular, not swirl, circular fashion all over the place, in and out of this direction that eventually finds itself in the location you're at.
Yeah, and that circular nature is that these decisions and behaviors that trigger outcomes then come back to factor in. So all of this stuff gets kind of this recursive cycling of these signals, right, to figure out, and then you throw it into a lot of multivariate testing, right, which again, I go through with clients pretty regularly. There's A/B testing. Everybody's familiar with A/B testing. You go, oh, we have the picture of the family at dinner, and we've got the picture of the family by the pool side. And what works best? You go, oh, look, it's the one at the pool. That's great. We're going to use that. Now we're going to have some sort of text that describes, you're looking at, targeting whatever families to go do such and such, and you're saying something about engage with the family is like headline number one, or H1 tag number or your H1 tag, and then the other one might be I don't know. So the excitement with the family or something like that. Well, guess what? It might be that when you look at that, you go, oh, it's excitement with the family. When you're just testing those blind, without the image, you go, that's the one. So we're going to put the picture of the kids at the pool and the excitement with the families. Then you test it together, right? Doing multivariate. And what do you wind up with? You go, what do you know? The engage with the family and the picture at dinner works better. Who knew? Actually, engage with the family at dinner works better than engage with the family with the visual of the pool. Who knew, right? If you went purely with the combination of the A/B testing, you would have wound up with excitement at the pool, which doesn't work as well, right? That might be option number 4. It might be your worst outcome, even though they scored independently. So again, you've got to look at these things, and again, that's what the online travel agencies are doing. That's what Google is doing. That's what all the folks who are really playing in this with AI. I mean, it's the true application of big data. And I think Tim's the one who says you've got to make it small data, and you do, but there's a lot of stuff to filter through and figure out what signals are most important. And it's the outcome. It's the sum of the parts that really makes the difference. Right. How does this overall page work? Even though now you can structure your website where there are lots of different modules to that page that can be interchangeable, you go, this is the combination that works best, and there are tools to be able to do that, which is fantastic. So you can start getting sizable samples of people and go, what's their behavior? Where do they go after this? Oh, they bounce. That's bad. So now let's go. Oh, they register for the newsletter. They go do an availability search and pop in dates, or they click to this particular room category to look at what that's about, or they start looking at the food and beverage. That's all fine and good, but again, that's not the end of the story on that page. You've got to look at that whole journey of going ultimately, and now what these groups are basically doing is going, let's look at who booked. Good, they booked a family. This is great. It was over this period of time. Now let's go back through all the signals of all the things that they did and figure out which one of those is an important signal. And they go, here's another family who booked. Hey, we found some commonality between these guys. All of a sudden, then you start figuring out those are the signals that you can pick up on and go, got it. That's a family, high probability of leading them down through the funnel to go make this happen. So it's
the last of the 2018. The last of the 2018 things that I think we shouldn't miss, of course, is the voice engagement, the voice activation. I mean, we just went through Christmas. We're still finishing the holiday time. We're coming up with New Year's, and the amount of voice activated promotions, the new Facebook stuff, the new Google. I bought the Google Home Hub. Actually, I had Google product at home already. I bought the hub that Costco had two.
Oh, you bought the Home Hub, huh? I only have the Home, which fortunately now isn't falling off of my network as much. They must have done a firmware upgrade. So
I was going to ask you about that because all of a sudden mine started falling off network. I got this one and I've been messing with it. But Yeah, but the Home Hub hasn't. The other ones are fine. The Home Hub was fun because Costco had it on sale for $200, which was great. Okay. So the nice part of it is
it doesn't have a microphone or a camera.
No, it has a microphone.
It doesn't have a camera, right?
Doesn't have a camera, which
right.
That's why I got it, because I did the whole Facebook thing. Not a big fan. Like if I'm going to do face updates because I can control it. But I bought all these smart hubs, light bulbs, because there's this new light bulbs that came out from a company, and I can buy 2 smart bulbs for $20.
Wow!
And they connect into the hub. So I'm like, drove my wife crazy. Went around
so
the
now
whole.
You can have purple and orange and yellow and green lighting.
I can make my patio light. I'm the red light district. Anyway, yeah, but I mean, I have it in the bedroom.
Why do people keep knocking at my door at 2 a.m.?
Hey, Philip, hey, put the red light on, see what happens. But I changed the lights in all of our bedrooms and so forth. Then we have all the names. Quickly learned the longer the name, the more the pain in the ass. So now all the lights have short names to it. But the nice part is I put the hub by my wife so that she can control the brightness, the luminosity as to whether it's a natural light, soft white, the old yellowish lights, plus also a bajillion colors if you want to.
Strobe effects?
No. But the unfortunate part about what the hub doesn't do is if you change it, it'll change to a color. Like, you say, okay, Google, change to red, and it'll change it. It won't change it back to natural light or yellow light or outdoor light. You have to actually go into the app for the light and change it back to one of the natural lights.
So you need IFTTT, whatever it is you call it, IFT command set, and you make your own skill, and you say, to change it back to natural light, and you can go set
right.
So,
but the nice part is the thermostat's controlled by it, the security system is controlled by it, the lights are controlled by it, the cameras are controlled by it. All that stuff is now is like, hey, okay, Google, show me Nest Camera 1, and I can see, the camera I have, and it's really neat in that sense. But what really is neat is I didn't notice how much visualization would improve the results of the answers. Still a visual thing, where it's like, okay, Google, what's the weather today? And if the screen will come up and it'll show you the progression of the temperature changes there, and it'll tell you the temperature at the time, and that's what you wanted to know. But it also gives you a sense of it's that, and we get so used to phone, we get so used to being able to go look and just glance at it. It's a nice little, like always having a computer on kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's in that sense. But this voice activation thing, and I know probably David Atkins is going to bring this up in the conference a lot more, but you got to start planning for this, because I mean, we've had this conversation before. I'm already making Amazon skills for one of my hotels. I'm making Google Assistant skills, but I have no use for them right now. I'm just playing to understand it and how to use it. But this talking to engage thing, I see this as a very real. Because how often, and I mean this sincerely, because you travel probably as much as I do, if not more, you go into XYZ hotel. Again, I get to have it where I actually take a picture of my room number, because after a week's worth of travel, I confuse room numbers as to which hotels I stay. I've many times gone out of the front desk going, I'm in room 1153, and like, we only have 8 floors. I'm like, oh shit, that's yesterday. I'm in so I actually take a picture of the room number, so if in case I go up, I'm like, and remember, it's also getting old. But anyway, so how often when you go in, you don't know where the light switches are for what? They don't, and because of power saving, they don't leave lights on a lot of times. So you walk into a dark room. How nice would it in the future, as things go forward, you walk into the room, either motion activated or, hey, turn lights on. Lights go on.
Yeah.
And also when you get in, it also, and this will save in the long run for those places that can't really re-hardwire their rooms to bring everything closer to the beds. To think that you don't have to walk across the room to flip the light switch off, you can simply call it out. I mean, that will be a value savings to them in that sense. So it's coming. I mean, it's not coming. It's here. It's how it's being expanded, I think. Is better.
Well, and you were describing Google's Duplex, right? And the duplexing, where you have a conversation with an AI assistant, and that AI assistant will call. I mean, the use case when they announced it in May was actually making a restaurant reservation, and basically the AI calls the restaurant to do it, and I believe that is now live. I think
it is live.
Yeah.
It's not open to everybody yet.
Now it's only if you have a Google Pixel 3, and I don't. I have an old original Pixel, and I don't know. Maybe this will be enough to swing me over, because my original Pixel is actually working quite nicely, thank you. It's still going pretty strong, which is great in terms of being happy about having a nice smartphone purchase, which is now going on to year 3 and still working really just as functionally well as it was at the beginning. I mean, and actually even better because the software has been upgraded, and it's great. But now Duplex, and I'm guessing I don't know, unless Google goes and pulls an Apple, I will probably have Duplex capability on my phone at some point, right? And I think actually after 3 years, then Google's going to stop. Then they're going to stop supporting the original Pixel. So I think this November or October, it's going to stop. But still.
Well, you have Google Lens on yours, don't you? Where you can look at things and it'll tell you.
Absolutely.
That's cool. That's just cool. That's neat stuff.
Oh yeah, and I'm using Google Lens more and more. I mean, just the ability to go. You want to look at the price of something. Yes, you can go into Amazon and things like that, but you can just go to Google Lens. It's open, and it opens up like automatically in the Google Assistant, right? With my phone, you just tap on it. And you show the picture of a barcode, and you tap a little blue dot, and boom, it comes back. Here's the price, and there it is. And you go, oh wow, that's a fantastically good price.
I use Amazon's because Amazon you can do the same thing. But the thing what I use a lot, because over the Christmas holidays, it just as an inside thing, is that I love cooking Indonesian food. My wife is Dutch, and she loves. She can fall in love with Indonesia because she grew up in Indonesia. So. We bring a lot of friends over, and I make this big what's called rijsttafel. It's a Dutch dinner, and there's lots of different dishes to this, and it's an all-day event for me to cook. And a lot of the stuff I use is very authentic in the sense that you can only buy it at certain stores, and they're all in Indonesian or Thai or whatever. And so I take the Google Translate, hit that bad boy on, and then you look at the recipe listings or the directions on the back of the packages, and you literally see the little jumbo, and it shows you I pick English to read it to me, and it shows you in English through the viewer what it's saying, and I'm just like, this is crazy good. I mean, God, to be able to do that it's fun. I mean, anyways, all right, digress on that. But
I posted a little thing from The Verge. Actually, I posted one thing before when you were talking about gaming things. There was a nice little I don't know if you listen to the Freakonomics podcast, but it's a great kind of entertaining nerd great for nerds and geeks. But they did have one which was a rebroadcast they did over the holidays, which was how to win games and beat people, right? And it's with a guy who wrote a book on all sorts of how to win at all these different games, but the host wound up playing him at 4 games, and his goal was to win at 1 and to draw at 1, right? That he figured would be a success, and he did, right? Because and you suddenly learn that this playing the games, sometimes there are different strategies, but as you were saying with the ball bouncing down, sometimes things you don't have control over all of these things, and sometimes someone can make it's like playing chess. Every once in a while you get someone makes a really crazy stupid move that isn't anticipated by the platform, and then all of a sudden you go. Or the classic drunk backgammon tournament, right? Sort of thing where somebody does something really stupid and beats the best backgammon player because it's like, I haven't seen that before, and all of a sudden it throws them off, sort of thing. And that's pretty much where we are with marketing.
Right, exactly. All right.
It's the drunk
so 2018, good with it. We got 12-ish minutes or so. We can hit a little bit of 2019 prognostications, and we still have a rut row.
That's right.
To throw there as well.
You want to do the sales and marketing trends to watch in 2019?
Yes, that's the one I was talking about. The article was written by Sean McCracken, which, by the way, and I don't know why this triggers me, but when you see names like that, all of a sudden you want to bring out your best Scottish brogue accent you can have, like lads and lassies and all this other. I don't know what is it. Sean McCracken, it's just
exactly.
It's like I was just like, yay, let's go do that. But okay, some of the things they pointed out. One of the first ones was evolving analytics.
Yes.
And it's true because I'm a geek about chasing down new software. If anybody wants to go into a vortex of black hole time consumption, go to a platform called Product Hunt.
You mean they aren't in one already? Oh,
They
sorry.
didn't be listening to us
to the
an hour and a half, right? Yeah, if they weren't listening for an hour and a half, they got to figure they're already into a product time vortex.
That's right.
But there's a place called Product Hunt, which is all these evolving technologies of usabilities and so forth. And I'm constantly amazed when you think that, okay, analytics is analytics. This is the only thing you're going to be seeing. They have new usabilities as to how to refine the data that's being produced by analytic platforms and to how to interpret them. And this goes a lot into the AI world. It goes into actually machine learning. I wouldn't even call it AI to say. I would say more machine learning, where there's progression. AI is on the top of the pile. Machine learning is below that. The correlations created that they're now. As a matter of fact, Microsoft MicroStrategy, their platform that competes with Tableau, is doing this huge announcement in 2019, January, after the CES conference, where they're going to talk about how it's going to start being suggestive in the interpretation. You don't even have to ask it questions. It's going to give you suggested correlations and confidences based on just shoving stuff of data into it. It's not going to, you're going to still be able to finite them and define them and ask questions, but it's actually going to be proactive in its interpretation of some of this data. So this evolving analytics is very real in the sense that more and more interpretation of the data is going to come into play.
Right.
The caveat in mind,
looking at actual behaviors based on all these signals, right? And your gut feeling that we've always done it this way and always, maybe it's worked and maybe you were lucky, right? And maybe it didn't work because you were but again, this will start at least informing those decisions and start giving you some probabilities on here's your best, here's the best option, here's some other options, and or even maybe run A/B or multivariate tests on it, right, to figure out.
I think that's what the real benefit is, because I think there's two caveats to this discussion that I want to throw into here. One is that there's still more than ever with this actually happening, this transition that I think is happening this year, this upcoming year, is the need for humanization of interpretation of the data is going to be paramount as machines try to proactively engage in the process of discovery of data and values. That's one. The second of it is that it's going to create a Pandora's box of BS with ownerships and management groups as they're handed more and more thoughts, interpretations of data, that they're going to go down these rabbit hole paths of dead ends because they think because the machine said that there was this, and you need a human there to step and go, stop. And I bring this up for one primary example, and this goes very early back. This goes a few years back when we were first trying to use Watson. Yeah. Watson, for those who know, is a computer from Microsoft, it's
IBM.
IBM. And it's when it was on Jeopardy and it won and all that stuff. So we were throwing in all this data and so forth, and I had a young kid that was not hospitality at all. I mean, 21, that was it, just out of college kind of thing. And he was doing all this correlation data, and he comes running into my room. He says, I got the first 95% correlation. The longer people stay in hotels, the more money we make. All right, that's great. Kind of got that one. Yep, good. It's good. Got it. And
that is known as a blinding revelation to the obvious. Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Captain Obvious. First time caller, long time listener. It is one of those. It is one of those things where you get this and you think it's a testament, like it came off the top of the mountain on a tablet, when in fact it's a statement of some sort of correlated data. And if you don't have that human interpretation of what it is, or worse yet, the data that was used isn't correlated in a way that is usable, that because it was sunshiny every day on Tuesday for the past 2 years and your ADR was above $150, then that must mean that every day that it's sunshiny on Tuesday, your ADR is going to be above $150. Those correlations don't really play. And I mean that, I mean, that's literally a correlation I got. So, because machine doesn't know the difference. It's just data to that.
Right. And the answer to that, when they say that, great. So now how do we make this actionable?
What's the action?
How do we find guests who will stay longer? Right. If that's the key, or then you have the thing going, or is it better to get these longer term stay guests? What's the profit on that? Right. Because if you're going, hey, to get them to stay for a week, we've got to drop the price to whatever, right? Which is good. And we could fill at higher prices on, 4 of those 5 days or something like that. How does all that work out? And then you start playing Tetris.
Right. Yeah. I always tell people when they ask me, it's like, well, we need to ask this question. We need to ask this. Before we ask questions, let's ask ourselves, what would we do with the answer to that question?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just getting an answer to a question doesn't mean it. What would you do with that answer? If it's not something we can use, then why ask the question? I mean, if it's just curiosity, I'll be at that, but we're here to make money, not to be curiously answered.
Well, and on the data collection side, I mean, that's certainly what a lot of businesses are doing now, is just they collect everything because they don't know what signals are going to be important in the future, right? They just want to collect this whole history of everything because, again, when you start looking at who are the families who booked whatever, right, and we need to go back, you want all the signals, right? So yes, you have this massive data collection, but then the key is we are looking for something that's going to, wind up triggering this and to compare it, as opposed to just, we wound up with some sort of, correlation is not causation, right? That is the bottom line.
Okay, I'll make you this wager. You're going to say that statement more times than you expected next year.
Oh, I always say it all. Yeah, that's a pretty
next year,
regular
I think you can actually say it more than you've ever said it before.
Oh, well, no, and it was interesting in this article. I mean, I think there were some very interesting points made where Letitia Proctor, Senior VP of Sales, Revenue Management, Digital Strategies for PM Hotel Group, she wants to be more adept on. She says she wants analytics to be more transparent. I'm guessing they're going to become less transparent, right? Because it is going to be, it's like the Google search thing. What put it? Well, it's these 200 factors sort of thing, and how they were weighted out. That's how you got the list. And maybe you could do that, but looking through all 200 factors, that's more for your data scientists to go figure out the weighting of these signals and things like that. The challenge is really going to be, we're trusting this black box or not. And a lot of it has to do with how this AI or the machine learning, what data has it collected quality data to begin with? Is the data it even has reliable? Is it a complete enough set of data to even use, right? Or is it some little weird subset that could be, skewed one way or another? Do you have the right data? Is it reliable? Is this data set complete? And then you start getting into, well, what sorts of assumptions and calculations were made to go figure this stuff out? Because again, once it works a couple times and people keep using it over and over and over, case in point, the global financial crisis was created by fundamentally derivative algorithms which were pushing derivative real estate based equities, right? So you'd take all sorts of these loans, real estate loans, home mortgages, and they would bundle together and basically make them, turn them into a stock, right? Because it's this bundle of underlying securities. Well, the training of that was apparently somebody's dissertation at Penn State, and this was what everybody was focusing. Well, there was a little bit of a flaw in that, because the flaw was all of the training data was basically when markets were going up. It was post 2001 or something like that. And they had never looked at this stuff in a downturn, and holy crap, what happens in the downturn? Oh, it's like leverage. There's a negative amplification effect here. That leverage is great when you're borrowing money and markets are going up. You can use that to your advantage. And when it goes the other way, you are dead meat. And the entire global financial industry cratered because of it, basically because of some algorithms that were saying, this is great, this is good, and didn't really have the raw data to go, didn't know, had no idea what happened when things turned down. Yeah, we'd never seen signals like that before, so who knew? Right? So that's it's scary. It's scary stuff. There's actually, I'll see if I can find there was a great article that I showed my daughter, who's at Texas Tech. Oh boy, I don't know if I can find it. It's basically, it was the summary that parachutes don't save you, right? Parachutes have no impact when you're jumping out of a plane.
Yeah, parachutes have no positive impact on saving you from jumping out of an airplane.
Right.
And it was great in a way to show that when you create correlations based on specific lines of data, you can create conclusions that are solid on the data, but unattached to the reality of the value. Yeah, right. There was a great article. Actually, you know what? I'll throw that in the show notes because I have that. I saved that in Evernote. It was a great. They did that as an example of showing the abuse data interpretation.
Well, and what they did is, and it was great. It was very, very cleverly written, because they said first their presumption was that whenever you do a study, a scientific research study, you need a control group. And there was a flaw with parachutes, because there was not a control group of people jumping out of airplanes without them. So how do you know, right? Hey, you need a control group. So then they went out looking for a control group, and they did find some people who were willing to do it, who were disqualified from the study based on kind of mental capacity or decision making. They figured, no, this is not. We don't want these people in our control group.
But here's the thing: they did a control group. People were willing to jump out of a plane without a parachute, but the plane was on the ground. They didn't make a qualified statement that it had to be in an aerial
altitude.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And
they ran the calculation.
The parachute didn't improve the survivability. So yeah, but for that end, it is a matter of how the data was defined, how it was drawn, the source of its creation. Just because you follow the methodology doesn't mean the data results are provable. So there's no action. To your point, causation does not create an action out of this. But I don't want to lose track of the time. But I also want to point out some of the other statements they had for the 19 thing. The rate confusion one. That was the next one.
Yes. Yep.
And I bring up the fact that Calvin Anderson from Red Lion Hotel Group, when he was speaking to the Direct Channel Conference in Dallas, made an interesting, bold statement that public rates are going to be replaced by private rates, personalization rates.
Yeah, and that is happening rapidly. Yes, which there are pluses and minuses to that, folks.
Yes, and a lot of implications to that as well. I mean, and I brought into the conversation, I didn't do it at that conference, but I bring it into the conversation on our show, that China is going through a social score qualification now, where depending on your social score assigned by the Chinese government, you're either entitled or restricted from better interest rates, which sounds hauntingly familiar to a credit score, to your ability to have certain housing available to you, to be able to live in certain cities, to be able to go over and have family expansions, or to have certain jobs available to you. And when it comes to social score, it's not just your credit rating, as I was referring to in our case, but whether or not, because cameras are everywhere over there, how often you go to the liquor aisle, how often are you seen out at, how long, how many times do you date? What do you do when you're engaged with social activities? What is your public performance record when it comes to are you held because the police because you're in the wrong place at the wrong time? Or so all these scores, things are influencing your score, and they give you no methodology to change your score. Right. They don't go say, you can redeem yourself by doing this or doing this. There is no alternate. You are assigned a value, and that's the value you have until they decide to change it for whatever reasons they have. And so with that in mind, when you start talking about personalization of pricing, and I had this conversation about retail, it's like, how cool would it be if you walked into the store and then there was no price tags and everything, but as you walked up to it, you could scan it and it would be given a price based on the value proposition you represent as a purchaser compared to maybe another person as a purchaser. Well, same too with pricing for hotels. Why would I get such a great score compared to Robert, who schleps around and looks for opaque websites and tries to compare your rates and take your cheapest rate? So you don't want to give him a good rate. Where me, I'm nice, I'm kind, I say nice things to you, and I report you on go, and you give me a great rate.
Honest about it.
Say between January 21st and 23rd in New York, somewhere close to Times Square. If you gave me something really good rate, we could talk about how great your hotel was on the show maybe. But anyway, the idea is that why would we have different rates? And that personalization of rates has that caveat is like, now are you saying because of my gender? Are you saying because of my ethnicity?
That's right.
Where do these lines get drawn? So there is a whole tangled web there to get sorted out as to what we define as the criteria associated with rate segmentation when it comes to privatization of rates.
And again, this whole trade-off of privacy versus convenience and having insider access and things that aren't publicly available, it becomes a very, very slippery slope. Because again, my gripe, and I think Hilton is now heading this direction, that these discounted rates for which were private rates, right, for stay at the Hilton if you book direct, I don't think was necessarily resonating that well with people who were indifferent to Hilton, right? To their regular guests who know and love Hilton, this is a way where they get a discount, and they should be paying a premium because they know and love Hilton, theoretically, right?
Mm-hmm.
They should be the ones who are, if you're loyal, you're willing to pay a price premium because you love that brand.
And you're getting rewarded for that in other ways.
Right, exactly. And so with that, you wind up going, okay, well, now everybody's trained to look for what's my special deal, what am I eligible for? And getting back to Google, one of the groups that they acquired way back was Room 77, and it was an acqui-hire, basically, because Room 77 started out, it was back Kevin Fleiss was there, who had been at Travel Muse, and it was Rich Barton, who had been, the original CEO of Expedia and things like that, were behind it, and they were going to go down to individual rooms, right, to do that, which was very forward-looking, because kind of in the pre-Airbnb saga, you did look at, hey, if Airbnb is selling individual units, maybe hotels could do this. Really interesting revenue management implications, all that sort of thing, except the infrastructure of the hotel industry did not support it. Well, Google wound up buying that. But one of the interesting things Room 77 did was it basically surfaced senior rates, the auto club rates, all sorts of these rates which are kind of out there in a GDS, but don't necessarily get surfaced by the regular online travel agencies, right? So and I think, Lauren, you've said this a number of times, that, hey, why do you want to go book the Hilton rate for booking direct when you can go book the AAA rate, right, and get all the benefits and do everything, and it's a lower rate? Right? It's kind of ridiculous, right? One's 5% off, the other's 2% off. So that sort of thing. So I think what Google's going to be working on, we're talking about all this, hey, here's the best time to buy, and here's the pricing, here's how it compares to others, here's the best choice. One of those things is going to be, what are you eligible for? Through whatever affiliation of where you work, the clubs you belong to, your interests, whatever those basic things that go, that's right, you signed up for whatever, you're an Amazon Prime member. That's where I think Amazon could play at this in a huge, huge way, right? Because again, people, you said you did your little visual search on Amazon. Amazon doesn't always have the best pricing. You can march into a grocery store and go, I'm looking for Tide Pods because I'm hungry, whatever the case may be. So you can get those. You go, here's the such and such pack. It may be much. It may be considerably more expensive on Amazon, right? Than just wandering to the grocery stores. But you have the whole convenience and what you're used to. But again, if you can wind up getting a better rate because you're an Amazon Prime member who loves Whole Foods, and you hit this demographic, and these new top hotels opening this year would probably love Amazon Prime members who shop at Whole Foods, right? They'd be happy to get those guys into their properties. You can do a lot of very interesting things, but then you also have kind of the wait till something flips and Amazon decides, hey, we make 30% margins on most everything we do. We aren't doing that on travel, which is maybe why they aren't in travel yet. Here's how we can make 30% margins. Let's go, right? And then all of a sudden it's going to be, oh dear, what have we done? This was so easy and convenient to access these sources of volume, and now, there are strings attached that weren't there before. Yikes! What do we do, right? And so expect more of that, because again, this whole AI thing is the major hotel groups, independent hotels. It's tough to get this much data to really do quality things, but you can certainly get the analytics off of your website, and you can get the experiences of what people are doing at your hotel and start tracking that stuff. And guys like even Alice, and I know they hate when I say this, as simple as it is for tracking those tickets, you can start figuring out, here's what people are asking for when. Here's how long it takes us to fulfill these things, right? That's really, really good, valuable operational data for how to.
And coming soon, I have to have Alice come back, because from what I'm talking to people around in the market and so forth, Alice seems to be slowing down.
Alice, I think they have. Yeah.
Stuck in the mud.
Well, and here's why. And I think I predicted this a long time ago. Was they they had a very smart strategy of coming in and not integrating with anything. They were just a ticket management system, and they had their own use cases and their benefits and their cost savings, and that was great. And they parlayed that into a significant investment from Expedia and other groups, which is fantastic. Now, which is great, and nothing bad about them doing that. Now the hard stuff comes, which is how do we integrate with all these damn property management systems to really take this to the next level? That is a lot of investment spending, which gets really, really complicated on, do we build it first so we can sell it to these people, or do we try to sell it and then build it? And oh boy, the sales cycle's a long time on this. And how many different versions of Oracle are there? Oh crap, sort of thing. And we've got to get certified on all those versions. It's ugly, right?
So the other one that they did, and I think this is it, I love the twist that they did in this article, the mergers and acquisitions impact for 2019. Now that we've matured past it actually happening, although it's still happening, obviously with Two Roads and so forth and what have you. And as a merger, the article made a very good point, is the expectation level that's risen with this. I was saying, okay, so you're the big megala now. You got all this combinations of stuff. Where's my membership integration rewards programs? What's the value proposition of me being with you compared to another amalgamated ownership group that may be wanting to give me some? I think there's going to be potentially, it doesn't say it in this article, but from my personal interpretation of it, I think there's going to be a loyalty benefits reward value proposition change as to how it gets translated to the guest experience, where it's like, no, stay with us because we'll not only give you the free bottle of water, but we'll give you some cookies. Oh, you can get water and cookies from them, but we're going to make sure you get last room availability and top of the building. Or, it's going to turn into this thing, because if we twinge in the economy to whatever level it's going to be, because we're so used to it now, statements like the worst day in the stock market's history passes after 24 hours. The worst, since the Great Depression. Nobody remembers the Great Depression because they didn't live it, so they don't understand what that means. And secondly, it's like, and it rebounded such and such percent. The biggest growth in the market history. These buzzwords just bounce off of us now. If this had happened at any other time, it would have been like, my God, that was the biggest day ever. I've never seen it go that way. Now it's like it doesn't even gather our attention past the day it was announced. So we're getting used to this. We're numbed. Our sense of
volatility in everything, right? In there's volatility in politics. There's volatility in financial markets. Yeah, and it winds up numbing people to what's really going on.
And so that brings us to one of the other ones, which we'll jump to a little bit in the profitability one. We'll go to effectiveness and communication in just a minute. But profitability, I think what's happened is that our industry is used to too many choices. There's a very high competition to things. So they're looking for these cost savings. If our economy did take us a substantive downturn perpetually, where it wasn't bouncing back up the next day, and we're now faced with the fact that
will happen. It has to happen. I mean, this is the longest bull market run, I believe. I don't know if it's in history, but it's at least in the top couple. I mean, it's well over 10 years now. And so, well, actually, no, it's approaching. I think it's 9 years, right? So the bottom was 2009. So sometime next year it'll be 10 years. And these things don't normally run that long. It's run twice as long. Normally it's like 5 years, right?
They have their reasons for it. They say because it was so deep so quickly, and because it was such a steady, slow, progressive out, it stretched the timeline of its recovery.
And there were artificial means, which were artificially low interest rates, right? So the Federal Reserve kind of made sure inflation didn't kick in. They managed this very, very carefully, and now, and they have to, quite frankly, because you do not want a downturn when you have, a 0.5 point interest rate, because you can't lower interest rates to fuel the economy. There's no place to go down, right? So they've got to get it back up into some sort of normal territory, which I'm sure is what the Fed is fighting to do, going, no, the economy's going very well. So there should be, higher interest rates, right? Because there's less risk. This is where it's going, and this should all match up. And we'll see. And the politics of that are not very popular in some
And
groups because they want the growth to continue. But boy, if you keep artificially inflating the growth, you are really going to get hammered on the down. And case in point, the Great Depression, the Roaring '20s. Right? Everything was go, go, go. And yeah, when they entered the '30s, not so much roaring, right? So
well, then this goes to our conversation with Alice and so forth. If the economy took the dive that the market did, even just for the one day that it did, is to this worst that it ever happened since the Depression, and it stayed there, stuck.
Yeah.
Okay. All of a sudden, hotels are dealing with less travelers. They're dealing with less money for people to travel with, for those who still are.
Yep.
You have the disparity of incomes, which we talked earlier on the show, of those who are going to the affluent little small hotels versus those that have to travel for business. The affluent traveler may or may not, initially they would still travel because they feel they probably can. Then as time lingered on, all rich people are rich because they're frugal. And so they would begin to control their finances, even though they could afford to go. The rationale would be, well, let's see how long this lasts. So they'll do less. Those who have to still travel because of work, that's in itself a whole modicum of fluctuation.
Well, but the whole corporate, the in a downturn, the pressure on corporate economics, right, are going to say curtail travel, put it off, because that is not a necessary sort of thing. I mean, look at how long it took the group market to come back, following the downturn, and all of a sudden the high-end incentive boondoggle programs disappeared. All of a sudden there was corporate governance going, do not send our top salespeople to this lavish resort for God knows what. It sends the wrong message, right? Sort of thing. So that is a problem. So all of a sudden that hits your group market, your corporate market, your association stuff, where all of a sudden it's like, hey, we can't afford that anymore. Everything starts getting compressed.
I think how many people in market right now that are in responsible positions worked through that time.
Yeah.
I mean, figure how many years ago that was.
Yeah.
That was 9 years ago.
Right.
Okay. A lot of those people, and I'm not saying we're out of the field yet, there's still a lot of us in positions and so forth and having that work through that time period. But there's a larger audience of people that never lived that. Their entire existence in our industry has been based on a progressive growth. They've never lived through a persistent downturn or a substantive downturn.
Yeah, or 9/11 before that, which was 7 years before the global financial crisis, right? So
for both of them, right?
These things kind of happen periodically, right? Because you start going back into the 90s. Yes, there was a recession, and remember the first Gulf War. There were all these, these things happen. In 1984, there was a gas crisis where people were lined up for miles to get gasoline, and the roadside guys weren't doing so well at that point, because people literally were like, they were not going to go on a cross-country driving trip sort of thing. Fuel prices went through, airfares went up, right? Because of fuel prices, there were fuel surcharges, all those sorts of things.
Air travel was already still for the affluent. I mean, face it, mid-'80s, even though it was regulated, the pricing was still regulated by the government at that time. It was still an affluent.
Mid-'80s it had been deregulated by that, but still.
Was it like,
yes. So it was Alfred Kahn in 70.
It was deregulated, wasn't it? I thought it was.
No. I think it was like 78, 79, something like that.
All right. So before we run out of time, which has been already relatively long for us,
back when in my college days. So.
Efficiencies in communication. Our rising systems allow more personal communication. And yes, that goes back to a little of our AI conversation. It goes back to how people communicate, where they're being communicated with, and what is being communicated with them on those channels. We made the Q comment, but we say this over and over. If you're in social and all you're talking about is room and rate, you're not getting it. You're not one, you're wasting your money if you're spending it in that space doing that. Right. Two, you're wasting your time if you're not spending money in posting that kind of stuff. Social platforms, especially now in PPC and in direct communications, that dialogue has to come somewhere along the point for the people to make the choice of acquisition for you. Right. But it isn't your persistent singular comment. You have to engage guests on platforms in the context that they want to, with the content that they're interested in. And so we have so many channels to choose from. It's not, and you talk about being old and thinking back to the day, it's not just buying the best roadside sign as they're coming into your town. It's not just being in the hotel book. is not just being in a brand that gets put into a GDS singular code because there's only 6 codes in existence, because that's all the brands that were in existence at the time.
Right.
It's not that anymore. It's the thousands of things. It's whether or not to have something run on social before you trigger it on paid, before you trigger it on organic, before you refer to it in something that somebody sees on a different medium. And to go back to the digital marketing versus marketing statement, digital is a tool, as you pointed out, and marketing is all of those things, including visualization, TV, radio. They're still there. They're not at what they were, but they still have value in certain ways.
Yep. Oh no, sure. And actually, I absolutely loved the comment from Michael Cady, who I don't know, VP of Marketing for Charlestown Hotels. In here, I will read his quote. We're seeing that marketing is touching so many different points of hospitality, whether it's through text or CRM, he said, but what we're not seeing is it being implemented and fulfilled at the operational level. So this is my favorite quote. So we're looking to get someone who understands marketing and technology, but can see it through all the way to execution and support the operational team. You should look at rockcheetah.com, my friend.
Yeah.
That is my business proposition, right? But that's it. That is really what has to happen. And not just me. It's like that is incredibly important. That is the game, right?
When I do the HSMA Rocket presentations, with 33 cities and so forth, and we talk about this convergence of revenue and marketing, I surprise people by also including the fact that who's not also in this room? Food and beverage people, operations people.
Absolutely.
Okay. Accounting people. And they're like looking at me like, what the hell would accounting be involved with this? I use this as an example. Let's say, first off, you all are on the same team and they all have to understand what I used to have a meeting every morning when I ran hotels called NEPMAs. Nobody ever tells me anything. And we had representatives from each of the departments to go over and hear what was going on for that day. So everyone could go back to their departments and share. So everyone was aware of what was happening as to why we had people wearing funny hats from a Shriners or something in. And so they understood. Now, accounting, as an example, their responsibility is the financial and the distribution of the payments of bills and so forth. So you have an account with, say, Sojourn. Okay, I'm going to call them up by name. I like the platform. I use them persistently. They do a retargeting campaign. And in it, they're supposed to drive new business for you. What an accounting team is supposed to do is go through all of the confirmation numbers that Sojourn sent in an invoice that said, hey, we drove all this business to you. We want our commission. Okay. Right. So accounting is supposed to go in and confirm all these confirmations. Here's the thing. In the conditions of what you have with Sojourn, there's contractual relationships that duplicities can get taken out. If they're part of a group block, they get taken out. If they don't know those terms and conditions of what Sojourn is supposed to do for you, you're double paying on certain bookings that you legitimately shouldn't. But because accounting was never brought into that communication, that conversation. Operations.
And you aren't cheating Sojourn, and Sojourn isn't cheating you, right?
Right.
And you get some confrontational things, and people will put Sojourn as, oh, this is horrible, and they're getting paid for stuff they shouldn't do. It's like, whoa, hang on.
Right.
That's the information they have. Their stuff triggered. It's on you to figure out and to reconcile that and go, hang on, we've got this other stuff, and no, yes, you're right. Your Pixel, you sent us an invoice for your Pixel's firing. Excellent. Right. We understand that. But here's how the stuff wound up booking. And that's, we understand the Pixel fired, but that's not causation. Correlation is not causation.
Right. And yeah, very true. See, you're already saying more, and it's not even the end of the year yet. The other is that if you're the fastest way to kill any promotion, whether it be restaurant or hotel, is for guests to come in thinking they're going to get redeemed something, or that they have to do something, ask for something to get something, and the front desk person or the server goes, I don't know what you're talking about.
The blank stare, yes.
Instant kill. Every positive aspect and every dollar you spent towards that promotion that brought that person into the door or into your restaurant died at that moment. Because because of your lack of communication to your operational team, you've just destroyed the value proposition of what that guest experience was supposed to be. Because now the guest, their responsibility, and you put on their shoulders, is they have to explain the very promotion that the staff person should know about, that they know more about, to explain to them why they're asking for what they're asking for. Yeah. That's never positive.
Oh, no, absolutely. So, I'm going to read two things just to this is the "I told you so" moment, right? Because I am updating my Rock Cheetah website. It's going to look very, very different shortly. But this stuff has been out there since the last time I updated it, which was probably 2010-ish. Well, maybe, yeah, maybe. I'm not sure when I wound up doing this. It was probably 2012, at least 6 or 7 years ago. What Rock Cheetah does helps travel sellers profitably engage guests by aligning innovative hotel marketing strategies with integrated travel technologies and efficient business processes. That's what you need to do to be successful, right? And then my Views from a Corner Suite blog is proving hotel marketing, travel technology, quality service, and profitability can peacefully coexist. I think those two things are pretty much the essence of the hospitality industry, and why I keep beating my head against the wall on a daily basis to try to make it work, right? Try to make the industry better, or help my clients make the industry better, right? So,
let's
anyway.
see the other one, which I agree with, but again, it's not as critical. You're not chasing the next new carrot, where it says marketing digitally to post millennials. We all know there's generation after generation after generation, and we've been focused on millennials now for way longer than we should have.
Yeah, but like Gen Z and a lot of these guys, they don't necessarily. Now, it's good to start nurturing that and to have products that are aware of, here's what folks, like, who are young and doing new cool things. That's great, but some of those may be in conflict with what your older folks want. So you've got to figure that out in your product planning and stuff like that, to make sure that really works well, because just chasing after Gen Z or whatever, I can't remember what my daughter's is. It's the one after the millennials, whatever that may be. They don't have any money, right? They're still in college generally, and that's kind of the group that traditionally loved youth hostels and things like that. And now they have Airbnbs to enhance off of that, and hostels are getting stronger, sort of thing, and morphing into different things. So it's going to be interesting, but I still think it's, you mentioned like the Big Hilton and that new renovation. These places need to be redeveloped and figure out what's going to attract and be more attractive to today's prime market, which may be your boomers and Gen Xers who have all the money and are have all the travel spend right now. Or are you going to start shifting more to millennials and younger ones to make it cooler and better? Because again, if you're all things to all people, maybe it works. I don't know.
But something I'm doing
generally doesn't.
I'll let you know how it comes out. This is the first time I had a hotel actually do it. I've done it in pieces at other places, but what we're asking is all the team members of a hotel to help the management team create the personas of their guests as they see them to be coming into their hotel.
The real personas, not the ones the marketing guys work, or like your 21-year-old revenue analyst who went out and said, we need people who stay long term, we make more money. Whoa. No. That's what we'd like. What's the reality? Who do we have?
And then, aspirationally, what it is we think we could bring in based on what we think is our product. There's two components. There's a self-fulfilling one that is, these are the people currently walking into our door. So if we only target on them, that's the only ones where we're going to get in. So it's a self-fulfilling circle.
Right.
If also we ask the question open-ended, and who do you think would be interested in our product based on what you know about our product, being a team member that you are, housekeeper, engineering, front desk, all these people, tell us who you think would be interested in our product, because you know about it and you know the location compared to other things around the market, so forth and so on. So we have that started. It's real simple to do. Just go to Google Forms, make a nice survey out that you send out the link to your staff, and they start filling in, and we're getting some really cool feedback. And then, of course, from our operational side, we correlate the frequency according to what they refer to, and that's the personas we gel together. Now, what we're doing, and this is a simpler way of doing this for the same reason, different purpose, is we're asking them to word cloud what we think they think what guests have told them about their product. When they talk to them, and so forth. Just clean, whatever, good comments, and then we have another question: what are their bad comments? Narrow corridors, small bathrooms, whatever. Word clouding those.
Narrow corridors is a tough one to fix.
Well. To know it, though, because there's two things to this, is that, obviously sentiment is a huge value problem. We talk about consumer sentiment and so forth. Now, there's easy ways to not an easy way. There's ways to scrape the terminology used off of platforms like TripAdvisor and incorporate that into your content strategy. Yeah. If you know the positives that people are saying about your product, you amplify those in the content of your website content. If there's negative things being said about you persistently, then there are ways to address them in your content to minimize the impact of how they might be perceived.
And first, operationally make those go away. If you can.
If it's a service-related issue, it should disappear.
And if it is narrow corridors, maybe something to do with wall vinyl, carpet, and lighting. I don't know.
Right. But again, if service-related issues, they should all disappear. Okay.
Right.
If it's structural issues, a lot harder, like you said. You can do some things aesthetically, but at the end of the day, a small elevator is a small elevator. It's gonna be that way.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. So,
but you could maybe make it more fun. I don't know.
Put clown faces on there. So the idea of it is, so what we're getting now is these generalized personas, and they're, bless their hearts, they're putting in what they think. Okay. Mm-hmm. And not all of it is relevant, but it does give some context, even though you may not use that actual specific instance they're referring to. The context of what they're trying to imply can be used. And then the word clouds, we actually asked for 4 word clouds. What you would say good, what you would say bad. What a guest says good, what a guest says bad. And then we did at the very end of it, it's like, and what are things that are around the hotel that you would refer to in a word cloud, like the Papa John's restaurant, or 2 blocks from the water, or whatever it is. Yeah. Put those in there too. Okay, they may have already put them in the comments themselves or whatever, but another one's just. And what about the hotel itself? And we're getting. I mean, management on the early stages of this are going, I didn't know they thought that. I didn't know that they said that.
And by God, management better listen to them, respond to it, communicate, thank them, and be grateful for the insight. And all of a sudden, we have a more engaged staff that feels that they have a voice in the direction of the hotel and how it's being managed, and they're listening to us. Wow. That's a novel approach
to this. I'm saying I'm going to tell this to Holly to possibly include this in her influencer program, which, bless her heart, she's kicking ass, her butt. She does her monthly training. For those who don't know, Holly Zoba, which is a dear friend of ours, works with us and is one of our co-hosts.
Lauren, if she's not on the show, you know the rules. We only say bad things about Holly.
Who will buy you a Tesla 3 if you listen to the show.
She lets her dogs, if you follow her on Facebook, she lets her dogs drive her car, I believe. She has 3 dogs.
Or I don't know. I know about tearing up the couch, that's for sure. And
exactly.
It's not her pool.
And if a dog does that, you can only blame the owner, I believe. Obviously. So,
yeah. So anyway, what Holly has this influencer training program. She does it for ownerships and so forth to give her a great pitch. She comes in and she'll train your sales staff. It's one of the first innovative sales training platforms I've seen in market for years. So
using all the techniques she has picked up from watching The Handmaid's Tale. She's really, really figured this out.
You see, we're both on 2 different sides of the screen, right? There's good guy, bad guy, good guy, bad guy. But the things that she does in the sense of teaching people how to use things is from a sales perspective is very solid. I was one of her trainers for it, and it's really cool stuff to do. But what she's teaching is how to use these tools and techniques that are out there. And I think what she does now is she will come to your ownership group or what have you. You can do a full day session with her. But she is now, and has been since October, offering an online training session of 4 sessions once a week. I think it's on Tuesday or Wednesday, one of the dates. You can go to her site, influencer-sales.com.
Needs to get the URL without the dash, Holly.
Yeah, right. Well, when she gets more rich and famous, she'll probably buy it from somebody. So anyway, she does this session program. I think it's $400 I think it's around $400 to join this program, and it's an hour and a half session once a week for a month to go through this training. And I think she caps it at 20, so it keeps it good conversation, good dialogue, good homework, all that kind of stuff. Well, she sold out, I think, in December, and now sold out in January. And she's opened up a second session line in January. So, girl's kicking butt, and I'm jealous in a way because the platform she's using, like Eventform and so forth and so on, is all the stuff I told her to go buy on AppSumo because I'm AppSumoholic. It's a software platform you buy software from, but all the platforms she's using for training and for the event stuff and everything else like this is platforms I have sitting on a shelf right now that I haven't started messing with So I'm like, well, girl, I think I'm just going to follow your lead this time and see if we can start putting some of this stuff together. So more to come for 2019. Let's say that. Robert might be one of your instructors, for God's sake. How to influence friends and what was it? How to control enemies and influence friends. What was that book? What was that famous book?
Oh, no. That's how to win, something like win friends and influence people or something like that, right? That was an old, yeah.
Oh crap!
Who was? I can't remember the name of the guy who did that. Used to be like the go-to, sales. That was the whole sales networking. Yeah, how to be a salesperson, right?
Yep. Hey, we're past our time, but real quickly, why don't you run through the rut row real quick?
Oh, the rut row. What was the rut? Oh, yes. A little bit. Talk about having a problem of having to change a physical property. There's a bit of a kerfluffle in Las Vegas where Wynn Resorts actually you have Genting Resorts World, which is a very, very large Chinese-based base group, very, very dominant in Macau, direct competitor with Wynn and Sands there, are coming in with a very large property in Las Vegas. The interesting thing is that there are some design similarities between the new Genting product and Wynn in terms of having kind of these curved buildings with the name up on the corner and things like that.
They're going right across the street either. That doesn't help
either.
And
they are right across the street, which actually from one perspective you kind of look at it and you go, oh, well, here's Las Vegas. We have some design consistency. That's nice, sort of thing, instead of just completely clashing, sort of things. But Wynn has now basically said that what their look of with the Wynn and Encore this is a trademark violation, that they are trading on their design of their property, and they want to shut now. What's interesting is Wynn did not come out with this lawsuit when the first drawings were published many years ago. They have waited for a big chunk of complete. I mean, these things are up multiple. I don't know if they've topped off yet, but there's a lot of steel that has been built and concrete poured. I saw
out there a couple of months ago. I'm looking at going, I didn't think the Wynn was expanding, and then I found out who it was. I'm like,
Oh, did you really think it was Wynn?
I did.
When you saw it? Oh, you did? Oh, well.
I thought they were building more. And they're connect everything else. Yeah. I did. I actually thought. But you know what? They probably talked to somebody in Apple, and they said, Apple and Samsung, wait for it. Okay, now.
Yeah, exactly. No, you can get a bigger number if you time it now. Yeah. We will. And again, it's a competitor, right? A big competitor. How much pain can we, exert on these guys? And who knows, with the whole, there's certainly a lot of Chinese intellectual property violation in the tech space. So I don't know if they're calculating that into a sort of halo effect of, demonizing, the Chinese. Oh, they're stealing in U.S. intellectual property. I have no idea. I don't know if they'll be successful. Who the heck knows? But this winds up becoming a problem for the Genting folks that they have to deal. Now, they do have a lot of money and a lot of resources, but the Wynn guys do as well. So who knows? We'll have to see. So anyway, yes, to change, Genting I don't think is going to have square buildings built. I'm sure they're asking for some sort of reasonable. Tear it down and build it differently is probably the logical ask.
Yeah, or they'll have to show an expansion plan that ultimately, like a Sagrada Familia, it starts this way but ends this way.
Alters the look. Yeah, we need it to be painted pink with polka dots and stripes. I don't know. Yeah, it's maybe
they'll make it into a starfish. Who knows? With swirly arms.
Or they say, or you just give it to us and then actually what they'll probably do is say, we will license the look to you for 30% of your gaming receipts or
something. Yeah. Mr. Robert, first off, here it was just you and I, and we blow past 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Well, yes, which normally we would do 4 or 5 hours, but that's right. We're going to cut it short.
In our dialogue today, I thought we covered our topics exceptionally well, and to the point I made earlier in the show, this is a tip to the iceberg of the content that Robert curated for us, and for all the links that we did not get to. And there are substantive numbers of those, and they're excellent articles, well worth the time to read, because, as I said, Robert took the time to curate these
and
things.
This is the articles I didn't put in there, which are just,
right.
Which I will have a couple rollovers next week, because there were two biggies that I think that hit this morning that we'll talk about next week, maybe when we have a crowd, which I believe, in fairness to Ed St. Ange and Tim Peter and Stuart Butler, Holly Zoba and Val Amperini, I'm sure they are involved during this holiday season in exceptional sacrifice of volunteer work and, something really helping multitudes of individuals improve their lives, because that would, I think, be the only thing that they should be doing aside from being on those guests.
We all agreed, first rule of Fight Club is no clients interfere with our Fight Club.
Well, and they've all told us that they all hate their families, so they don't want to spend it. Weren't they just telling us before the holidays they were really not wanting to spend the holidays with their families?
They come out of the house is, I think, what they first said.
Exactly. Anything to get away from these damn people, I think was. Now
we also have the advantage of knowing that for everybody that is going to go to the Digital Marketing Strategy Conference, January 23rd in New York City at the Marriott Marquis, the day after the Adrian Awards on the 22nd, that they want to brush up and be fully fluent in what's currently available in the digital space or in the marketing space, whatever we want to refer to it, in hospitality. So it would behoove them to pay very close attention if they haven't already planned to play back this show, but to definitely show up for next week, because it's only a few more weeks and you're going to have to sound smart when you're in the conference, because you're walking around with some pretty smart people. And if you can't tell me who won the Patriots game versus Denver, then you're not a football fan. So if you can't tell me the intricate layers of scheme as it relates to hospitality and the 15 variations that were introduced just this past 2 weeks, then I really am not going to give you much credence as to knowing what you're talking about, right, Robert?
Well, and I'm going to be doing a session on influencer sales and some interesting statistics on what to look out for, how to identify possibly good influencers versus evil influencers, what to include in your contracts, and how to measure the results. So, and hopefully we'll have a couple of folks helping me out with it as well. So
to that end, let's add that into, if not next week, the week after, just before the show, the conference, because I'm dealing with new platforms that have come out into market just over the holidays that are influencer open markets.
Yes.
Go in, bring your influencers if you have them, or go in and find influencers if you don't, and how to go through and sort and filter and find and bid. I mean, now it's a bidding war with some of these guys. Yeah. What is your expectations, contract negotiations, cost values, expected rates of return based on audience participation? I mean, there's a whole new developing monetization thing going on right now. That isn't just that I know this blogger is a really cool blogger, and if we get him there and give him free food and a free room, he'll take some cute shots and send it to his audience. Those days are gone. That's out the window. Okay, now you're talking about exactly how many posts of what type, of what image type, as to what you're giving versus what you're getting, how many frequencies, what's the separation dates. There's a whole mess of stuff. And whether you bid more than somebody else is bidding for the same person for the same time.
That's right. Yeah, and if it's a quality influencer, they may be, Jakarta or something, who knows, Singapore, Tanzania. Somebody may be wanting these as a destination to go there versus you as an individual hotel for such and such. And it winds up getting, it's like some of these top photographers and things like that. These guys start bopping around the world, and they've got to figure out their sequence of travel and their itinerary, and it may be. That's great. I can't fit it then. I can't be in Washington, D.C. for cherry blossoms.
Give you a perfect example of it. There's some great New York influencers or people I want influencing that know the market or have the demographics in the market I want that, they're not in the cold climates right now. They're all south. I can't get them to come up to New York in January and February. Talk to me in March and April.
Lauren, I can make it. You go down to Times Square, the guy who's the Elmo or the Buzz Lightyear.
I already talked to the dude.
You can get those guys.
There's Elmos down there. There's a good Elmo, and there's two really bad Elmos. I don't know which one it is. None of them are talking.
There's a lot going on in that in that space.
You got a good topic. I have a really good topic.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it. Plus, we're also, for those who don't know already, every year we cover it live. We do live broadcast outside of the conference itself. We try to bring people off the stage to debrief them on their presentations.
Are we doing that this year?
Yes, we are. I'll be there.
I didn't.
Camera in hand. Oh yeah,
Oh.
camera in hand.
You have a spot. You have a spot mapped out.
No, but I'm not akin to going over to the registration table and dragging it across the room when they're not looking and throwing my banner and going, "I don't know what happened to your table."
That damn skirting is always a problem, though, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We always do. And Robert's always been great about being a participant in that process too. So anyway, we're well past time, but Mr. Robert, as always, thank you. I don't know if I will talk to you before the change of the year, so a very happy new year. I have always, and I think I called you on this one, is like I appreciate both your business friendship, acumen, and your insight and your participation in the show as always. It's long since stopped being my show. It's been our show for a very long period of time. Now 3.5 years in the making, and it continued to be as such.
It's been a while.
So
not like those other fly-by-night guys.
Fly-by-night hosts. Yeah, no, we can't bash them too hard because it's always a pleasure to have them on when they do
aren't here. They aren't watching it 2 hours and 14 minutes.
Oh yeah, right. You're right. By now they're not even listening.
Say whatever we want.
Oh yeah, those bums, those dead beats. Where are they? No. All right,
Exactly.
Mr. Robert. If you want to know more about you and more about what Rock Cheetah does, where is it that people can go and find you, sir?
Rockcheetah.com, which someday will have a new look and feel. I don't know. It might not be done by the holidays. I've wound up doing a whole bunch of new stuff, right? Eating my own dog food. So do it yourself when you really learn the ins and outs of the stuff.
So you roll up the sleeves, baby.
Oh yeah, or at Robert K. Cole on social media.
Excellent. And for this show and all previous 176 shows to this, you can go to hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/live. Look for episode number 177, which is what this one is. It's associated with the date December 28th. And then you'll see all of the previous episodes for this year and links to the archives of the years past. Once we get through with this show, and after the next show, first of next year, well, not the first of next year, but the first show of next year, all of the shows that we have listed will go into the 2018 archive, and we will start with a clean slate for 2019. So if you look right now at the hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/live, you'll see all the shows starting from January all through to this one. Starting next week when we do the finish next week's show, all of these shows will go into a separate page, which will be listed as Archive 2018. That being said, there's an Archive 2017, Archive 2016, Archive 2015. We go back that far. So,
and have you done this for SEO purposes? Is that the major? No, I'm just.
Well, it just gets, you know what it gets a little long in the tooth if you're scrolling, too far down to go through the shows. And it's a clean slate for it. I am, and I'll talk to
your perpetual page with your parallax view behind it. Come on, you can do really cool things, Lauren.
And please don't look past this page because the rest of my website is, like we say, the painter's house is the last to get painted. Being too busy to get to stuff that should be done a long time ago, it's not a site that reflects well on my performance of services that we offer by any stretch of the imagination. But with that said, I am thinking, and I will be putting out a survey to those that I have on my sender mail list and so forth, of potentially changing the name of the show to This Week in Hospitality Marketing. I'm thinking that we might take digital. Hey! Oh, by the way, Seth. I heard. Yeah, hi, Seth. You had an unfortunate loss recently, didn't you?
We did. Kelso passed away. Oh, Seth was not happy about that. But yes.
Yeah, we had Kelso passed away. Sorry to hear that. It's. I can't even fathom if I were to lose our little lesson right now. So anyway, with that said, I am thinking about, and I will send out a survey, but not that it's going to happen, just it might be a consideration. We might change the show's name to This Week in Hospitality Marketing.
That would be excellent. Yes.
I think so. I think it's progressed to a point now we don't need to keep referring to the digital component because we talk over such a broad spectrum of things, all marketing related, that they're not necessarily. Digital is a tool, as we said earlier, so it doesn't have to be identified as the only marketing aspect that we talk about. It's only a component of it. So, anyways, we'll have that conversation with them. If that's the case, we might find a different URL for it to reside on as a show unto itself. Leave it at that, and that way we can. We'll see. So, for those who are on our mailing list, we expect to receive a survey to that effect, asking your opinion about it. And every year, I also ask whether this time slot is still the best time slot. We've shifted over the years. We originally started on Wednesdays. We shifted that to different time on Wednesdays, then we shifted to a different time on Friday, and we've settled in this one now for the past 2 years, I think it's been, that we've been doing the 11:30 Eastern, 10:30 Central. So it's been a while at this time slot. If you're familiar and useful and comfortable with this time slot, great. We know a lot of people listen to us on the recorded version of this, several thousand people actually. So we know that maybe this time slot isn't the best. If we changed it, we're going to ask for suggestions as what might be another alternative time that would be more pleasant. If there's one better by consensus, we'll change it to that time. So lots of questions in the survey to come out. Not too much time to take it. Really quick questions. So with that, a very happy New Year to all those that are listening to this live. A belated Happy New Year to if you're listening to recorded after the New Year's. And if you're still enjoying your holidays like our co-host that didn't show today, have a very happy remaining holiday. Look for the closing credits on the broadcast re-record on this, where I get to go over and bash people, things where it's like we ran out of time to talk to Holy Zoba today, Edward St. Ange, Stuart Butler, Val Perini, Tim Peter.
Yep.
Yeah, all no shows. Anyways, Mr. Robert, as always, thank you so very much for your time. Pleasant Happy New Year.
Very good.
And talk to you.
See you next week.
See you next week. Thanks.